Park, the real life fun of harness racing. Here they come, an exhibition park.
Welcome to a brand new episode of the History EPR podcast. I know we've been a long time doing this. It's been about a year, I think. We have a special family on today. The Davies family is going to come on and talk about the history of the Davies family. This is with Big John and his twin sister. So we're going to bring everybody on. We have a bunch of people coming on. So first one is Janet Stevenson. Hey, Janet, how are you?
Good, Scott. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm really good. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. And we have Joanne. Yeah, there's Joanne. I'm just kidding. The Monday girl. She loves, and we are recording on Monday, and she's smiling on Monday, which
I'm
is
happy.
surprising. You're happy. Okay. Well, it's Monday evening. It's Monday evening, so it's not too bad.
Right.
And we're going to bring in Chris Davies.
Hi, Scott.
There's
Thanks
Chris
for
there.
having
How you
me in.
making out, buddy?
Good, buddy. How are you?
I'm really good. And we're also going to bring on Mr. Mike Stevenson.
Woo!
The man.
There he is. How you making out, Mike? You're doing a little better than before. We were talking earlier to start, but it's still a long road ahead, eh?
Yeah, thanks, Scott, for having me. Yeah, it's a lot better than I was 5 weeks ago.
Exactly. Well, it's good to see you're back up, man. That was a rough one. I seen all the things online. I didn't watch it, but I seen everyone update. It's good to see you home and relaxing and getting better. So that's a good thing because it was pretty scary what happened.
Thanks.
So basically, we're just gonna go over, the Davies family. We're gonna start with Big John, obviously, Joanne, and Chris's father, and your uncle, right, Janet? Because I'm gonna get confused for a second. So I have the real quick question I have. Him and your mother were twins, am I correct?
Yes, sir.
So the big thing, because your mother was very involved in harness racing also.
She charted and was the program director for over 67 years, 66 years.
So with harness racing, was someone else in the family involved in it, or did your mother and your uncle just kind of get into it on their own?
Michael, you're the oldest.
Both sides of the family were on it, actually. Like, I think my grandfather and them and Nanny and them had a couple before Uncle John got into it deep, and Uncle Cease used to always have a couple horses. I mean, great-grandfather Cease always used to have a couple horses. I think he used to race them some, and he also used to use them to deliver the ice at East St. John. Back when everybody still had
Told
ice.
you he was older.
He used to deliver ice with them.
So it's been in the family for a long time then. That's because
Yeah.
when I knew they were twins, I thought, well, it must have been the family. They couldn't just both went into it together just for the first time. So basically, how I'm going to do the podcast, I mean, unfortunately for Joanne and Chris, you guys are kind of like in the background for the first little bit because you guys get born later on.
Yeah, we're still not
So
here
for
yet.
All right.
so for Mike,
I'll
for
try.
your sake, do you remember when you first started going to EPR, Mike? Like, do you haven't kind of, I don't think it was an exact time frame, but like an idea kind of thing.
I can remember because we moved from Fredericton to St. John when Dad was thinking about going to the States. We moved to St. John first. We left Fredericton and we moved to St. John and built a house right up next door to Uncle John and Nanny's house. We built a house right there on Golden Grove Road. And actually another person that's into the racing there in New Brunswick lived right next door to us also was the Alabys, Ricky Alaby and them. So the three of us were all right there. Those three houses all had something to do with EPR. But yeah, in 76, my dad moved to St. John from Fredericton. And to be honest with you, I spent more time in Uncle John's barn than I did my dad's barn, really.
So you can, so that was like the prime time to come to EPR in '76.
It was fun, man. There was a whack of us kids around there then too. I mean, growing up, all the Henderson boys, the Watson guys, Billy Smith, Tommy Gunn, me. I mean, there had to be 20 kids around there, all like anywhere between 12 and 10 years old. You know what I mean? And we were everywhere.
Yeah, I find it's interesting. I was talking to someone about that, about EPR and harness racing and how it attracts children. I said it's a big thing for kids. Like as me as a child, that's my first memory almost of my life was being at EPR.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
being a little weird kid freaking out the fence. Like that's just, it kind of attracts us. It's the animal thing. It's the fact that our families are involved in it brings us to it. But I actually have the raise. I think you've seen the raise of your father with the single sulky.
Yep.
Back I think it was 74 that he was in. And
Yeah,
I had that race. I got
funny story about that. When they first came, Uncle John used to have this little horse. Matter of fact, he had a trunk with his name on it and everything, but he was a small, tiny little horse.
I remember this.
I couldn't have been more than probably 10, 12 years old, but like I say, I always used to help Uncle John. And so this little horse's name, is, I'll never forget him, was Vital Hanover was his name. He was small. When I say he was small, he was small. And Dad said, Johnny, we'll put the single hitch on him today. So John said, okay. So they're all running around. Well, back then, everybody, was warming up their own. They all had stables and that then. So Dad's running around, and Barry McGrath was the paddock judge then. And they're calling for the post parade.
Barry McGrath.
Calling for the post parade. And meanwhile, Dad was warming up or getting one of his horses ready or something, but he was driving Vital, but he was on the track or something, so they had to get back then. Caldwell, you made the post parade then, I mean, if you came off the track after the post parade, that was fine, but you were out there in the post parade. So they're Barry's hollering and screaming for somebody to post parade this horse. So finally, Uncle John said, well, I'll parade him, because he had his colors and everything on. He ran over and got on the single shaft, and it was just like a cartoon, God bless. He got on that little horse, and it picked his front end right up off the ground by about 2 feet, and his little front legs were going like this, and he wasn't going nowhere. And everybody in the paddock was just roaring. Even Uncle John was laughing, and Barry had to call him up and say, yeah, the one's not going to make the post.
I remember you telling me that story.
It was so funny. I could see it plain as day. He was standing over by the spit box is still there, but he was over up against that wall, and Uncle John got on the bike, and it just like a kid doing a wheelie on a bicycle. It just picked me right up. Yeah, it was crazy.
I have a picture here of an older one. This is Aubrey Wood on More Than Fair down in Foxborough. I think it was 69.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was a nice trotter.
I think she broke some track records, didn't she, or something?
I'd say she was a nice trotter in her time.
It was 69. Go ahead.
No, Uncle John did good wherever he went. You know what I mean? Yeah. He did the work.
So I think this is around the same time frame. Talking about off to the U.S., so he's going to the U.S. So I can't read it.
More Than Fair.
Oh, same horse. There you go. Perfect. Yeah.
One. Yeah, that's good, Scott. Look at the hat.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
His little.
He looks like Russell a little bit. Look at the face on him. A little bit, eh? There we go.
Dapper.
So you're there in 76, Mike. Now, Janet, you're obviously same thing. Are you coming around the same time frame?
Much younger.
76. Yeah, I was only 5. I was the mistake of the family. Michael and Gloria are like 11 months apart, and then 6, 7 years later, woo, here I come. So I was really younger.
So when did you start going on, Janet?
When Rockingham was going on, I'm not sure, but I was way down the road.
Mm-hmm. So your first memories of EPR, Janet, when you went down?
My first memories of EPR were the middle barn. Ross McDonald was in the end barn, and Uncle Johnny and Kenny Mason, I think that was his name. Yep. Kenny and Morris, they were at the other end, and Uncle Johnny kept telling me I had to go jog this horse, and I said, I watched you. He goes too fast. And I don't think I could have been any more than 7. And I went, he goes, come on down here. And I think the horse name was Gramps Champ, Kenny had. And he said, get on here. And they threw me on here, and Kenny hit him with the lines and out the door and bounced. I was only little then. I almost bounced my ass right off the jog cart getting over the hump. And I went out and jogged him, and I would come in. I was just as proud. That was the first time I ever jogged. They tortured me for about 2 weeks. I said, I do the stalls, I do the buckets, I get them ready, I bath them. But yeah, and then I went from that till I think I was probably 15 in Fredericton, 16 maybe. First horse I ever trained to the bike was Gideon Lobel. I don't know if you guys remember him, but he was humongous.
Heard the name before, yeah.
I remember the name.
Yeah, when we got to about the 3/4 pole, and Bob hollered, "Pull!" And we were right on the turn in Fredericton, and I pulled and was coming around, and I just was scared to death. It just felt like the bike was coming right out from underneath me. That big son of a bitch took off. I have nothing in my life that I've ever done. I accredit everything to the big guy.
And
my dad.
He had a nice little stable there. Like when I can remember because I'd go down, to be honest with you, Scott, I'd help him. I wouldn't even go over to my dad's barn. I'd help Uncle John on Saturday. It was either Uncle John or I helped Wally and Francis. And anyway, I can remember he had Hoot Dillon and John Davies from Woodstock used to send Tagwin down to him every winter. What a nice mare she was. She was like one of my favorites.
She was
a nice mare. And he used to have the little double-gated mare, my first lifetime drive, Hoot Dillon.
That was mine.
And she was a nice little double-gated mare. Trot around 212, 213, pace train around 28, 29. But, you're going back then. That wasn't a bad horse. So he said to me, that was my first lifetime drive. And down the backside, I'm making a 3-wide move. And Willard Carr takes me all the way to the outside fence. I'll never forget it. And finished second. I'll never forget it. And I'm pulling up, and I'm not saying nothing to nobody. Back in the days, us kids didn't say anything to them old timers. Willard pulled up alongside of me going back to the paddock. He looked over and he says, "Bad luck to win your first race anyway, kid."
That's good. Here's another picture of John here. I don't know when this is from. Maybe someone could break. It's kind of hard to tell. It's just John.
I know
with
the horse.
Yeah, what horse is it?
That's Bert and Bert.
Yep.
Okay.
That's not that old, actually. Well,
no, it's not.
I mean, for Uncle John and racing and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, towards yeah.
It's 15 years ago or so, I would say.
Yeah.
Because Bert's the same age as Kyle, Camco Kyle.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that picture. It's a really nice picture.
It is a nice picture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump into the first video of the day. We got a couple to go through. This is the Walter Dale. It's kind of, we're jumping ahead. The problem is I didn't have a lot of his 70s stuff. I have in his 70s videos. I don't know if you've seen the video, Chris, of the 8mm that we had in the paddock.
If you had it, you sent it to me. Yeah, I did.
But I looked through it. I couldn't find him in it. I was like, maybe we thought he was in it. Or maybe we confused him with somebody else. I know, no,
he was definitely in it. Right at the end.
I should have grabbed it.
You had to watch it quick.
Was that
yeah? Well,
he was paddock or something?
Coming out of the paddock, yeah. And he was I don't know who he was talking to, or
there's some oldie in there.
No, straight all work. Yeah, no.
Straight
So what we'll do is we can flip all over the place. I'm going to jump into the Walter Dale anyway. This is the Walter Dale 86. I couldn't find the full race because it was funny. I got every at the track from 1986, and I like to tell a funny story about that. And I got to start with Scott's home when we come back with your father. When I did at the track, they would show these feature races every week, like from Exposition Park, etc., etc. Burns Delight won something in Summerside. They were supposed to show it, but they didn't have the video of it. And they said it on the air, like, "Oh, we don't have the video of it. We can't show it." I'm thinking, but here's him winning the Walter Dale, which is basically the next best thing. And we'll bring this up, and then we'll come back. When these go on, guys, you've probably seen it. Everyone gets muted. If anyone needs some, I don't know. It's 38 seconds, so
be quick.
It's coming up right now. Here it comes.
Racing for the 3/4, it's Glendale Galaxy Captivator now up 2 on the outside. Berners Delight 3 along the rail. There by the 3/4 in 130, it's Glendale Galaxy. Captivator goes off stride. It's Glendale Galaxy, Berners Delight, and Captivator off the 7/8 heading for home. It's a Glendale Galaxy, Berners Delight now out from 2. It's Berners Delight, Glendale Galaxy, Captivator as they come to the wire. It's going to be Berners Delight, Glendale Galaxy, and Captivator.
159. Walter Dale, 1986 for Berners Delight. That was really hard to find. That was Mike Ellsworth's collection. I got it off of I give Mike his credit when I steal his videos. But Joanne, was it you that told the story? Were you there for that, Joanne, as a little girl?
I can't remember. I don't think I might have been.
Probably, because you guys always, Uncle Johnny usually cartages anywhere as we went with him with big races.
Yeah, I probably was there, but that was what, 86 you said?
Mm-hmm.
86, yeah.
3. So I was probably back at the hotel with Mom, because I know Mom said we did go to a lot of those races.
Yeah.
So I was probably
Let's bring up the. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Joanne.
That's okay. I just said I was probably with my mom.
Speaking
And
of
let's
piling
bring up-
everybody in, I can remember when we were kids, when they used to race in St. John 2 days a week and Fredericton 2 days a week. There'd be nothing to see Uncle John with Wayne Clark's Little Red Express and about 8 of us kids in the back of the truck, beating her out of the stable gate going to Fredericton, and literally 8 of us in the back of the truck.
And
We
that was
went
okay
from-
then. Like
We
Oh,
went,
yeah.
we
Yeah, it
went
wasn't
from
even
St.
crap, like-
John to Fredericton in the back of the truck. I mean, every day there was a race day. If everybody was looking for a ride, we always just run over and jump in the back of Uncle John's truck.
Yeah.
And if he
Old
had
home
the horse
week, it was
truck-
in the,
and if he had the horse truck, we jumped in the back with the horses. It didn't matter one way or the other.
You got
We
there.
always got there.
old home week. It was always in the trailer.
Yep. Yep.
I heard that. Yeah, you were just telling that before, Mike, when we did the one with your father. That story. They jump in the back of the truck. I have
Oh,
a couple pictures of Burns Delight. This is a famous one that everyone knows. The one with Wally, your father. I don't know who the 2 other guys are.
Brian Hamilton.
Ryan Hamilton, and
Yeah.
that is
I'm not sure who the guy
the
next
guy
to.
from Fredericton, Michael.
I can't see real
He
good.
was a bigwig.
I ain't got my glasses.
He looks familiar.
Oh,
Who it is either.
But that's Brian next to Uncle John.
I mean, Burns Delight again. That's in Exhibition Park there.
That's Uncle Bobby.
Yep.
Driving, yeah.
Other
Then we
than
have-
Valley Road Eagle, growing up with the big guy, that was his other pride and joy.
Burner.
He loved that horse. Valley Road Eagle was pretty special to him back in the day. He taught him, he'd go up to him and snap his finger and that son of a bugger and drop his tongue right out to him every time.
Yeah.
I taught him that. He was pretty
Yeah. So proud. Yeah.
Not only, I mean, he
Good
liked Toby. He had a lot of nice horses. He had Toby Power, and he had a lot of old class horses that always went, like that little Mormac Fay, Hoot Dillon.
Hold the line verbatim.
Hold the line. Yeah, he had a bunch of tough
Newport
campaigners. But
Skipper. Let me put
Newport
it this
Skipper.
way: there's not too many trainers can say that they've had the winningest horse in North America, like on 3 different times with
Yeah.
three different horses.
Yeah, that's right.
Arapa's Heart, who up that Newport Skipper horse, whatever it was. I said he won like 26 or 27 races one year. That horse.
Didn't verbatim too, Mike? Didn't he win
One
a
of
mile?
them. He
Now
did
you
it.
really
He did it. He
Yeah.
did it 2 or 3 times with different
So cool.
horses.
Yeah, pretty
You
neat.
know, what's interesting, as I mentioned now, obviously because my grandfather's Jerry Ryan, I'm a massive fan of Scott's Common. As everyone can see in the background, I had a painting. If you can see close, I had the Gold Cup and Saucer Trophy and the Alexander Memorial Trophy there. But your father, Chris, was the one who told Bill Jr. about Scott's Common being for sale
Being for sale.
in,
Yeah.
in Halifax.
Yeah. I read
my
that. I don't know
grandfather
where.
went up and-
Remember, we read that somewhere.
Russell's
Scott. I
book.
don't know where.
Russell's book.
Russell's book.
Oh,
Russell's
it's
book.
exactly.
Yeah.
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 And I have a funny story from Russell's book, which I'm going to tell in a second about your father, which I'll actually bring it up now because I have the insert. I'm not going to show it because it's almost like Russell will probably hit me with copyright infringement and sue me. So,
that would bring him
I'm just
joy,
gonna
probably.
read it. Per Russell Henderson, by the way, Russell Henderson wrote this. This is not my writing. Russell saying competition was certainly plentiful that summer, and it didn't always stay on the track. 2 of my favorites, Mercy Elmer and Overdue Purdue, fell victim to competitive silliness that can ensure within the harness racing industry. They were forced to find new occupation, accommodations. Across the yard after Jack and John Davies got into a heated argument that led to Jack tossing John's racing uniform into a pile of manure. In retaliation, John gave Mercy Elmore a horrendous mohawk haircut. John said, "I hate to do it, the sweet little horse, but it was the only thing I could think of to get back at Jack."
He'd do
I
it.
read that when I mean, I just pictured it in my head. Your father doing that. I just laughed. That was
Oh,
great.
yeah.
That's a great story.
and he'd be laughing the whole time he was doing it.
Absolutely.
But as he was laughing, I'm sure he was apologizing to the horse. I'm
Guaranteed.
sorry. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry to do this.
But I got it.
So for this is more for Janet and Mike. You guys can answer either way you want, like whoever goes first. Favorite horses, like this week, I'll ask Chris and Joanne the same thing. Like favorite horses of his back then. We kind of answered it a little bit, I guess, at the first, but when you guys first started coming around, favorite horses that John had.
You're older. You go first.
I'll go with the mare that Joanne Davies used to send him down every winter, and that Tag one. I loved her. And she used to do so good. I mean, she'd race the top class. She'd race against the boys there all winter and fall. She was a nice mare. And John, when he'd come down, was funny. Like two completely different guys. Like John Davies from Woodstock, little wee short fellow, stood there toed out and all that. And then you stand him next to Uncle John there, great big huge guy in every sense of the word. And you put the two of them in the room, and they'd sit in that tack room in there and tell stories and laugh. From the time that John would arrive from Woodstock, I don't think they'd ever leave the tack room. They'd sit in there and watch the races, shoot the shit and laugh. And Ivan and everybody be looking after the horses or bringing the horses down. But then he'd finally just start bringing her down, and he'd just leave her there for the winter. But her and I'd say Little Vital and Park Castle was another nice horse that he had that I liked.
Mine would probably be definitely Diamond Digger. He was the man.
Let's have a picture over here for you. So
and I did get to dress him in red. That's the only face.
He's got red on right there.
The red cavesson. Yeah. I had all the red fuzzies and everything at the end of her. And Mormac Faye, I loved her. Hoot Dillon was my all-time favorite. All-time favorite. And Jolly Good Time, he was another tough old. He had legs on him. I'm telling you, his ankles were that big. He was tough. Well, that's
interesting to say this. Keep going. Sorry.
No, I'm done.
It doesn't mention these horses. I've heard these horses' names. Like I have. When I did this podcast, I went through and me and Chris found certain videos. All these horses' names. I have all these races. Like I have 8 hours of stuff from 85 and 86, but it's just so hard to go through. And because they took our archives away, I can't match things up anymore with the newspaper. Because if you people are watching that, can you please bring that back? Because this day in history of EPR, that's going to start getting old in about a year and a half when I'm using the same articles over and over again. Right. If you look at something, I thought I'd seen that before. You did see it before. Each year is the exact same article every day.
I'll tell you what. If you could ever find out where they ever went, that man had a friggin' VHF friggin' library.
Oh.
Friggin'
Talk to the guy with the glasses on.
Oh my God. Tapes.
Talk to the guy with the glasses. He'll tell you where they went.
Jesus.
Where are they?
They were in Shonda's garage. And when I went to Maine racing, and that's because Dad was sick then, and then so everything went in Shonda's garage, and they got water damage. Yeah, and I had boxes, man. I swear, Scott, it would have just been like Christmas.
The races that were on there, Scott, would have made you sick.
He'd record everything.
Every night, every race.
Hamiltonians, Little Brown Jugs.
He'd be in that office. Races from the island or wherever it was, you get them. Back then it was all what they call it, inter-track wagering in the maritime. Then you used to be able to bet all the maritime tracks from all the other maritime tracks before they sent their signals way out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You used to be able to sit in St. John and bet Summerside if they were racing tonight, or bet Charlottetown tomorrow night. But I mean, he'd sit in there every night, and he'd take just about every one of them races too.
Yeah, he would.
Oh, the amount of races.
Applause.
Thank you. Thanks. He and Mikey Doyle. Mike, He and Mike Doyle would sit there.
Yep.
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 That's true. I'm always on the hunt for stuff. So people listen to this and you have any racing, I'm your guy. We're gonna get to Joanne. Poor Joanne's been up there all by herself. She's not frozen. She's moving. We know she's moving. So,
That's my mini.
so Joanne, you become born. Like, was it really cloudy the day you were born, Joanne, or was it like sunny out? I'm assuming it was cloudy.
All day.
You know,
I don't know.
what's that?
I'll
was
be right
beautiful.
back.
You don't have to lie on the podcast, Joanne. You can be honest. Just say your parents were like crying. Like,
Tell them
I'm just kidding. So were you born in '83, Joanne?
83. Yep.
So you're 72 now?
72. No.
I'm just kidding. I got to put a little picture of you, Joanne.
Yeah.
There you are.
Uh-oh.
There's Joanne as a little girl with her
My
father.
little muffin cut.
A little,
Mushroom
yeah,
cut.
a little.
That's what it was called.
Mom still has the bowl that she put on her head.
You think that's funny? It was your dad.
Oh Lord. Can't believe they gave me that.
Well, there's a few pictures of you. I have so many. Like I gotta label my pictures. I don't know what half them are. I'll probably skip through a whole bunch of them. But let me go into my format real quick and make sure we're kind of following it somewhat. Okay. Oh, Joanne, this is a question for you. What happened with the pony? What's the deal with the pony?
Pony? What pony?
Was it a pony or a goat? Didn't something happen with a pony or a goat? They used to chase you around?
Oh my God. Janice Hubbard's goat that she
I
had.
thought it was Janet. I was like, whoa.
No, not you. When I was little, we used to go to Jody Hennessy's bar every morning, and Dad would have his his tea, and we'd sit there and talk. And every day, Jody Hennessy would tell me that there was no school today because the school burnt down. And I'd be like, yeah, go to school. And Dad would be like, no, there's school. You're going to school. Anyways, one day I went out the back door for something and was going across. I think I was probably going over to see Kathy and Ross because their barn was right behind there. And this goat came out of nowhere and was chasing me. And yeah, it wasn't good. I was screaming and running from it. The horns were like hitting my ass. It wasn't pleasant.
Trying to hurt you?
And of course, Dad and Jody and them are just laughing their heads off because they thought it was hilarious. I'm pretty sure it was Hubbard that had the goat, but.
So she always had a goat. She had a goat before EPR closed. I remember being in her barn. I used to always go see her goat.
Bobby.
Because he was like this.
Bobby
he was the
McNeil
sweetest
had
little
one
guy in the
too.
world. Yeah, the sweetest thing in the world.
Yeah.
I guess he does something to piss it off, Joanne.
I probably teased it at some point.
Not you.
She must have or something. I don't know what you did that was wrong. Okay, so let's go through some pictures. These are not in order. It's kind of in order, I think. But we start jumping into like the late 80s. I don't have the names of the horses. If everyone can figure out who they are.
Rappy?
I was gonna say it looks like Rappy.
Yeah.
I don't know who that is.
Let's see this one here.
There's Brian.
Brian. Who's that
If you
one?
full screen, you can see it's
Ella.
yeah. I don't know, did your father train that horse, or is this just a different horse I just randomly put into your podcast that wasn't yours?
I'd say it was his, probably.
Yeah. It's our bike.
Traveling Lady.
Your dad's bike.
Did he trained Traveling Lady, right?
Yep.
Tommy Mason. God bless his heart.
Yeah.
Love Tommy.
Yeah.
Greg, it's when I came back to EPR, like came back around a few years ago, I'll tell a story with Tommy and then we'll move on because Tommy's recently passed. As a kid going to EPR, I was just this little brat who was a pain in the ass and I wouldn't say nobody liked, but I was a pain in the ass for the adults probably. And I remember being really scared of Tommy Mason. He used to frighten me as a kid. And when I came back and I was in Janice's barn and Tommy came down and told the story that he'd tell me every time he'd see me. It's just funny looking back on it, how I was so intimidated by him as a kid. But as an adult, he was just the sweetest man in the world, right? And he would tell me this story with him and my father getting in trouble. And God bless his heart, every time I'd see him, he'd tell me that story and I go in the barn. I'd let him tell me it. He'd just tell me the story and I would listen, laugh, and go, oh, yeah, Tommy. And he would, I remember on Saturdays that he'd give me $20 and go put some, he'd say, like, he wanted to put money on Janice's horses. Don't tell me when I'm gambling. I don't gamble. Like, sweet man, what a sin that he passed away because it's a real nice guy.
Yeah.
Not raised, but he took care of all of us kids growing up. You know, when I was younger, Tommy, yeah. If I was trying to do something in the paddock, he coming along and he'd correct me or show me the right way to do it, or if I was doing it, it wasn't his way, and he'd show me his way, which 90% of the time I liked. Don't tell the big fella, but put it on like this. I was like, oh God. He was a great guy.
He had to have
sweet
patience.
Man.
He had to have patience. He worked with Donnie Galbraith for 15 years.
Don't know how he ever did it. Love that man though.
Oh yeah, I remember going in his barn. It was beautiful.
Oh yeah,
Donnie's.
You eat out the floor in that place in his barn.
I'm just gonna say that.
But Tommy, it was Tommy. Like the last year of his life, we'd see each other a lot at the barns. We'd sit and talk. He'd be outside, and he was he wasn't really that happy about getting older. He was a little sad about getting older. I just make sure we'd talk about the old times and stuff, and make him feel good. Like, great, like really nice man. Sad that he passed away, but if I think he went to sleep. So I mean, we all have to go sometime. If pick a way to go, that's a nice way to go.
He wasn't that old, was he? Wasn't that old?
No, he was. He was a little sick there for I think had an infection, and then it kind of just like led to him passing in sleep. But it was a shocking situation when it happened. Yeah. So here's your father here. Oh, go ahead.
Tobic Power, right?
Toby, yep.
That's here in Summerside, isn't it?
He's one of the first horses I did ribbons in.
That was my.
There it is.
That horse right there was my first sub 2-minute win.
Really?
I knew that.
I went with him at Foxborough in 59-3 when he sent him down to me.
Yeah,
I remember when Uncle Johnny got that jog card, and I was so mad because he was the one that always said, "See how the horseshoe's upside down on the apron?"
Yeah, I don't like that either.
He always says you never hang a horseshoe upside down because all the luck runs out. You always put it with the ends up.
Yep.
And when he got that jog card, he ordered it brand new. I was so upset. I'm like, oh, that's great. We're never going to win another race again. Yeah. That Curry place or whatever, they were the ones making all of them then.
Brodeur.
Brodeur, yeah. I wasn't happy about that.
Here's one here. We got a fun one with Joanne later when Joanne's like 15. So it's pretty cool. But there's John with one of the nicest people in the world, Bill Nicholson Sr.
Yeah. I love
We
that.
could do a whole podcast on how nice Bill was. So
The toothpick.
Yeah. You know what that was from, Why he's a toothpick?
And one of the few guys I can remember before I left home, he was still driving then, and he was in his 80s and never went out without a stopwatch.
Yep.
Really?
He was 80s. I don't know how old he was when he stopped.
I remember he was UB First was one of the horses he drove towards the end.
I'm trying to think of that little horse's name because she was a nice little mare.
I know
won a couple of times with her.
Yeah.
Even in his 80s, because they always used to make a big point of it when he won.
Oh yeah, I have a race of him when I think I have something him when in his 80s. He that toothpick's from him quitting smoking. Supposedly, that's like quit smoking. Was a toothpick.
Really?
That's what made him quit. Yeah, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's what it was. I remember that little smile on his face. He's my godfather, so I mean, I know him my whole life, and just the sweetest man. Like you can never say it. If I ever heard someone say a bad word with Bill Senior, I'd be like, What? Did you get paid to say this? Like, what's happening? There's no way. It's impossible.
Him and
Just a sweetheart of a man.
My grandmother and B were like inseparable.
Bestest friends.
Yeah.
They used to dress to the nines to go to the races at St. John's. Let me tell you what. The fancy hats, the pins, the earrings.
Yeah.
Doris, are we going to the table?
Oh, yeah.
I had to go upstairs. I couldn't hang in the club area. I had to go upstairs and get my poutine and hang out with Timmy Merzetti and all them guys.
Did you hear a story about B. Nicholson and the Gold Cup and Saucer 74? But what happened? So Gold Cup and Saucer 74 is the one that Scott Gallman won, which is actually 50 years ago, a few months ago, or last month. Actually, earlier this month. We were recording in August. Anyway, B loved her. She liked to drink, B had a lot of fun, and B was having some beverages that night and was having a lot of beverages that night. And so it's time to and I heard the story, a few different versions, but I heard one that I think sounds pretty realistic. I think they're all realistic, but everyone kind of, as time goes on, you kind of forget. So B goes up to bet on Scotch Gallman. And I mean, Scotch Gallman's not the favorite to win this race. Like, he's kind of just not really doing much. So she probably bets like $20, $30, whatever, bets, wins, paid tickets, goes back to her seat, thinks she lost her tickets. So she goes back up, buys more tickets, sits back down, thinks she lost her tickets. She keeps thinking she lost her tickets. And I guess at one point the teller's like, man, this horse is like 12-1. Where do you stop buying tickets for this horse? It's not going to win. And then obviously Scott Swan wins the Gold Cup. And a person told me B had so much money that she won. People had to help her count it because she couldn't count that high. Not insulting B. That's how much money she'd won. She had to get people to help her count it. It's just like crazy.
Not a bad problem to have.
No.
And I'll tell you, in my last story with B real quick, then I'll move on. It's a great one. Exhibition week, it probably was like 89 or 90 or somewhere around them lines. You know, we had the double headers on Saturday. So you do, Saturday afternoon, go Saturday night. Well, I would just go to the exhibition between the races. Anyway, B was playing roulette, and I was standing by her. And B would say, what do you think? And I'd tell her, and she started to win. And I remember I went to leave, and she grabbed my arm. No, you're not going. You're staying with me. I think I sat there the whole time. This next race, I started playing roulette with B, and she gave me $20 or something. But they're great people. B and Bill were just sweethearts, both of them. And so what we're gonna do next? Then we're gonna jump into another video. This is the Gold Cup Trial '86. Now I know, Chris, you told me this. Your father was really proud of this race. Am I right?
Yeah. Wow. I think anybody that can never race the Gold Cup is pretty, you know what I mean?
Just to get there.
I'd say it's probably the highlight when you guys of his career.
Oh, yeah.
Just being in it.
Oh, yeah.
So what I do is I don't have the Gold Cup. I have the Gold Cup. I can put up. I have the Gold Cup Trial because I don't want to give away the finish because that kind of defeats the purpose. But what I'll do is I'm going to show the Gold Cup Trial. I'll add in the Gold Cup when we upload the video. So I'll add in the Gold Cup on top of that for everyone type of thing. But I know this is a really big deal because obviously we kind of give it away because he was in the Gold Cup in the trial and that's the first 3 horses in. So, but Gold Cup Trial 1986, it's the full race, and then when we're done, we'll keep moving along. Here it is.
Race 11, top of the stretch. Gold Cup and Saucer Trial 1 has 1 guaranteed chance. 2 Burner's Delight, 3 Heels Lad, 4 Big D, 5 Rev Your Engine, 6 Damage Control, 7 Outside Flight Officer, 1 Trailer 8 Cruise Captain, 8 horses for a purse of $5,000. Gold Cup and Saucer Trial 1. Here they come. They're off and pacing. Burner's Delight, Heels Lag quickly away to tag them out of there. Racing down along the rail, he is Cruise Captain third. They drive up into the turn on the outside. Heels Lad going to the top. Racing from 2 is Burner's Delight. Cruise Captain drives up on the outside. They go to the opening quarter. Up on the outside. Damage Control is going to the top. Now racing second is Heels Lad. There goes Cruise Captain on the outside third. Locking on at fourth is Burner's Delight. Big D racing in 5 guaranteed chance. They go to the 3/8 Damage Control on top. Cruise Captain drives up and at him on the outside second. He goes for the lead and gets it as they swing off the top turn. Coming through the stretch first time for the half. 28-4 by the opening quarter. It's Cruise Captain to the top. Damage Control racing second. Heels Lad third. Fourth is Burner's Delight. Big D's 10 up in 5. Rev Your Engine guaranteed chance. And Flight Officer trails. They race into the turn going to the 5/8. It's Cruise Captain on top. Damage Control racing second. 58-3. They race past the half going down the back stretch to the 3/4. It's Cruise Captain on top. Damage Control. Big D is driving up on the outside third. There goes Rev Your Engine. He's full of pace as they race down the back stretch. Going by the 3/4. It's Cruise Captain on top. Big D outside second. Damage Control nowhere to go third. Rev Your Engine. Burner's Delight's coming on. They have an 1/8 of a mile left to go. Cruise Captain. Rev Your Engine is flying on the outside. 1:29-3 by the 3/4. Cruise Captain. Here comes Rev Your Engine. Rev Your Engine. Cruise Captain. Neck and neck. Right down the wire. Rev Your Engine wins Gold Cup and Saucer Trial number 1. Cruise Captain second. Burner's Delight. Damage Control will be 3.
All right, everybody. We have a special guest also today on the podcast. Someone who's been on it multiple times, and you all know him very well. It's Wally Hennessy. He knew John very well. So bring Wally in. Hey, Wally, how you doing today, buddy?
Good, Scott. Great to be on with you, buddy, especially to talk about a special person like John Davies.
Definitely appreciate you coming on. So, we texted. You said that I'd seen the race. You were racing Prince Edward Island back in '06. You raced one of John's horses that he was training, and you had mentioned to Lee that John was one of the first people that you got to drive from when you came to Exhibition Park. Do you have a story behind that a little bit when you first met Big John?
Yeah, Big John was oh God, how would I say? He was a very, very unique and special person. Like he was one of those guys that he was able to get along with anybody, no matter what walk of life they came from, or where they came from, or who they were, or what they were. He treated everybody the same. And when I first met John, um, if I'm talking from my own standpoint, I was a young boy trying to get started in life, and that was one thing that John did for numerous people, was he gave them a chance, and he did. He gave me a huge opportunity early in my career, and he was just one of those guys. He was very easy to like. He was very easy to do anything with because he wasn't a blamer. And anytime I run into somebody that's not a blamer, I find a winner. And John was a winner, and he carried that over from people to his horses. His horses kind of reacted the same way he did. They were kind of laid back, and but they were horses that they were always rigged tremendous. You never had to re-rig his horses. He never ever told you how to drive. He sent you out on the racetrack, wished you good luck. When you came in, if you screwed up, he didn't say much. If there was a problem with the horse, he switched it. Sometimes it was the driver, which were rightfully so, what he should be switching. But generally, the only time that you didn't drive for John was when you took yourself off. But I just found him a really, really tremendous, unique guy that helped numerous people. And also, Scott, what John done. John was in an era, a time when it was still a trainer-driver business. Like the people that trained the horses drove their own horses. There was very few people that were selective, like just be in training alone, because it was so hard to do. And he was not a driver. He was a trainer. And he was so great at it. In my opinion, in that era, when I raced there, he was the best on the grounds. And we're talking about Francis McIsaac, we're talking Clarkie Smith, we're talking Jody Hennessy, we're talking Steve Maher, Boyd Tremere. John Davies excelled at training horses.
So you, big race for you guys. You guys at Berners Delight together. I'm going to show a picture of you at Berners Delight. I don't know what racetrack it's from, but there it is right there. That might be Fredericton, I'm thinking. It could be Florida. I have no idea.
Uh-huh.
I can't really tell the background too well.
I'm not sure where that is. I know there's, is that trees in the background? I guess.
It looks like it, yeah.
Well, I'm not certain where that would be.
Yeah, it doesn't look like anything in America. It might be down in Florida.
Would be Florida.
John, Berners Light was a real big deal. I know I talked to Chris, and Chris had mentioned he was really excited about the Gold Cup trial. We showed that. We showed it when people watch this podcast. It all blends together. We recorded their segments last night. And we showed to Walter the Gold Cup trial where Berners Light finished second in '86, and the big one, which I had to search for, is the Walter Dale from 1986, and you won. You were driving them. But so the last half of that race, it's interesting with that race. It was scratched down to, I think, 4 horses, maybe. I don't know if you remember that or not.
I know I do remember. I don't remember much about the race, but I remember having won the Walter Dale with Berners Delight.
Mm-hmm.
And he. I don't think he was a favorite or anything in there. I think it was kind of a surprise that he won it, but I guess it wasn't a surprise to either John or me because I was kind of on a roll then, and I had a lot of confidence going on, and John always had confidence, and he always sent his horses out thinking they could win. And funny you get on Berners Delight because that just goes to show you once again, that was somebody else's cast off. Like that was a horse that was given away to the man. He had got a package of horses, I think, at one time during that era from New England through different people he knew, and these were horses that could not compete where they were in New England, whether it was Foxborough or Green Mountain or wherever they were racing. Or in Rockingham, wherever they were racing, they weren't able to compete. And Big John I think he even went himself and picked them up and brought them back to St. John, the Exhibition Park Raceway, and he found a diamond in the rough there with Burner's Delight, because that horse, you know, he gave me a lot of thrills. He gave John a lot of thrills, and I'm sure other people.
Definitely. Yeah, for sure. It's a really good horse. So it's a big favorite of the families. I know that. So I'm going to show the last little part of the Walter Dale. It's actually been shown twice in this podcast. I showed it last night. This comes from At the Track. This is a little clip. And yeah, we'll kind of just show it and talk about when it's done.
Racing for the 3/4, it's Glendale Galaxy. Captivator now up 2 on the outside. Burner's Delight 3 along the rail. There by the 3/4 in 130, it's Glendale Galaxy. Captivator goes off stride. It's Glendale Galaxy, Burner's Delight, and Captivator off the 7/8, heading for home. It's a Glendale Galaxy, Burner's Delight now out from 2. It's Burner's Delight, Glendale Galaxy, Captivator as they come to the wire. It's going to be Burner's Delight, Glendale Galaxy, and Captivator.
Yeah, that's the longest. That was funny. I had got all them at the tracks, and I went through each one individually because I wanted to find the full race with the winner circle stuff. Couldn't find it. I think they actually were supposed to show up, but they couldn't get the video of it. And here is the winner circle.
Yeah.
And it's you, there's John, and I think we talked about last night who the other 2 guys were.
Yeah,
But,
Big John, myself, and Brian Nelson. And that guy, he was running Fredericton then. He came from Nova Scotia, that guy. He was very good. What was his name?
Everyone was trying to figure it out last night. We were all like, who is that person? Everyone knew everybody else.
No. He was big in racing. He was into the managerial part of the.
Yeah.
Oh God.
That was
I know his name. Can't remember.
That's all good. Yes.
It's funny you showed that video. I'm kind of disappointed now because I thought maybe I gave a tremendous drive. It ended up there was only 2 of us left. So,
well, yeah, because I thought it was a 3-horse field. It was scratched down to 3.
No, there was one way back. You could see there was one way back.
Oh, there was one way back. Okay,
He must have made a break. So
that Fredericton Raceway is really weird for horses jumping. I got a tape of Fredericton races once, and I swear, like every second race there was a horse jumping. I'm like, what's wrong with that racetrack?
Yeah, no, it wasn't. Glad it wasn't. No, that's there's another feather in John's cap because it wasn't any racetrack. Like we were dealing with, not the breeding that we have today, and a lot of the horses that John and myself and a lot of other people that were training and driving and people training on their own, you had to have some kind of horsemanship because these horses weren't. They just weren't naturally gifted like they are today.
Yeah.
Horses are naturally gifted, and they're faster today. But it didn't matter. Speed didn't matter. Like they had to be rigged pretty properly, or yes, they would make breaks. Or if you tried to go too fast with them, they'd make breaks. So that was another kind of thing that John knew his horses, and he knew. For a guy that didn't drive, it was quite amazing how he could have them rigged up, where you didn't run into many problems with his horses.
Definitely, yeah. He passed it down to Chris. Chris has a stable down in Summerside. Chris talked last night. He finally got a couple good draws for tonight. So, knock on wood, maybe tonight will be a good night in Summerside for Chris. So, we're getting stuck in the 8-hole the last 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And we were talking. I finally got something out of 3. I'm like, well, there you go, buddy. So, no, that's great, Wally. I really appreciate you coming on. Yeah. If you got any more to add, definitely feel free to add it before we leave.
Nothing other than that I've already said about John, because I've got nothing but great things to say about him. I was very happy that I got to meet him and was able to be associated with him, and he passed it right on down to his kids because I've met them and they're tremendous individuals as well. And that doesn't come by accident. And the big fella, I'm sure he's upstairs looking down at them, very proud. I know he doesn't have Exhibition Park to watch anymore, but Chris is, they're keeping the racing in the family and continuing to do it. I hope they do, but that's about it. Just like I say, he was just tremendous. He was a great human being.
I only met him once or twice. Don't have much memory of it because I was so young. But I know, like, coming from the family side of it, you can't ask for nice people to Chris Davies and Joanne. I went down the island for a governor's plate, and I just hung out in Chris's barn the whole time. I thought, well, I could have stayed home and watched it, but just real nice individuals, good people, good family people. So yeah, they're definitely really good. So I'm very happy we could do this podcast. I'm happy you can come on and join us for a few minutes, Wally. But I'll let you get back to your day because I know you got lots to do. And thanks again for coming on. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Scott, and actually, thanks so much for asking me to do this. I'm very honored to do it for him.
Thank you, Wally. Very much appreciate it. Take care. Have a good day, Wally.
Yeah.
You know what's crazy about that? Reverend Angel doesn't really get talked about a lot as being one of the great horses from the 80s. That horse won a Gold Cup and Saucer. Was really good, but they always talk Winner's Accolade, Angel's Shadow.
Mm-hmm.
The Reverend Angel doesn't get brought up a lot. Maybe for the fact he knew much of the EPR, but like he had one of the best Gold Cup finishes of all time in that same year against Angel's
He had
Shadow.
a good kick.
Yeah.
He used to, every time he came to St. John, he came to Uncle Johnny's barn with that horse. And we'd all be getting him and Burner ready at the same time. And Phil would always look at the big guy and say, "Come on, let's go get them. Let's go get them."
Such a classy person.
I have a question for Joanne because I forgot to ask this question, and I'm doing it with everybody. What's your first memories of the racetrack, Joanne? Like them dropping you off and hoping you wouldn't come home, or
tell
like,
the zoo story.
That didn't happen at the barn, Janet.
We left the barn.
My first memories, I mean, they're a little foggy when I was really young, but I know I was there a lot with Dad and Janet, and Mike and Gloria. I know I was there all the time with them. But some of my best memories that I remember is being at Jody Hennessy's barn. My dad and Jody were great friends. Brian Moore.
Yeah, we'll talk about Brian a little bit. Yeah, definitely. I'll bring him up. Keep going.
Dad to me was really good to me. Yeah, back in, I don't even know. My favorite horse that Dad ever had was Sonny Mac. I was only young. He bought him in Maine for $1,000, and he raced him a couple starts down there before he brought him home, and he paid for himself before he even left. So yeah.
Forgot about it.
So
I remember my young days, obviously, but I definitely remember from like 6 and up, hanging around with John and Doug Falcons, Little Dougie, and Moore Vincent's son Matt, Gary Vincent's son Nick. There was a whole herd of us kids that always used to hang out in the barnyard and stuff when we were kids.
Yeah, no, we like for us. I think it was Paul Nicholson was around my age. We hung out a lot. Another guy, I still see him. I just keep forgetting his Rob something. I don't know his last name. He's probably thinking, I don't know my last name. I don't know what it is. We'd hang out there. There's actually a video I think of Phil Pinckney throwing his whip out to the crowd, and there's all these kids hopping over the fence. And I'm pretty sure one of them kids looks like I flipped over. Like it's a crazy video. The kids going crazy. But anyway. So then Mr. Christopher's born. So we're going to bring up a picture of Chris when he's very little that I actually used on E-Pair Jeopardy. It did.
There it is!
I could have wore that tie tonight.
It did not take them long to figure out that was you.
No.
Ross got praise. Oh, it's Chris Davies. Like
he jumped right. I remember that. Yeah, jumped all over it.
He came right away. So there you
go.
He
looks exactly the same. Oh,
yeah.
Exactly.
There is a good story. See him right
there,
baby. I was working for Uncle John. This was when I had gone to the States and I got hurt in an accident in Poconos in like the summer of '83. And I moved back home. And Uncle John, I can't, but as the story progresses, somebody might be able to fill in the mare's name.
Lucifer.
Yep, he had this mare, and I kept saying, Uncle John, this mare's getting awful big. She's getting big. Ah, that's good. He
He's
says
surprised.
easier to put weight on them than it is to take it off, or it's easier to
Yeah,
take
he'd be
weight
proud.
off than it is to put them on them. So I never thought no more about it. So Wednesday night we raced her. Thursday they had Thursday and Friday off because they're all right back in to go Saturday. So I was the first one at the barn. Thursday morning I go in. I walking down through and dumping grain, and I look in the mare's stall, and there's 2 of them in there. She had a full after she raced Wednesday night. And the foal, they had a big thing at the grandstand the next time they named the baby. I said to Uncle John, I said, you got to get to the barn. I called him. He goes, why? What's wrong? I said, you got to come, and you got to come now. He goes, what's wrong? I said, the mare had a foal. He started laughing at me. I'm like, I'm not kidding. I said, there's a foal in that mare's stall. He walked in. He's like, walking the barn. He goes, what are you talking? I said, go look. He walked over, turned around. He said, I'll be goddamned. He said, that mare had a foal last night. I said, no shit.
You know what,
And
Mike?
I think the foal ended up being, I think they made a name for it 2 years later because I went back to the States. I think it ended up being Davies Surprise was the name they gave her, and was doing really good. And I think she got hurt in an accident or something at Fredericton. But I mean, win a couple legs of the sire stakes in that before she got hurt.
You drove her in one of them, Mike.
Yep.
Yeah, and one of the, that's right too.
You came home.
She had a week off. And she was racing in Fredericton, and Dad just put her in an overnight to tighten her up because she had a final going for $25,000 the next week, and she got
knocked
she didn't
down.
come home. She got in the accident and went to the vet, and had to get put.
What a
But
shame.
I remember Dad getting up from the table, we were having breakfast, and I heard him take a call, and he said, "If you took me away from my food,
My breakfast,
And my salt shaker."
Yeah.
And then he got up, and I remember us saying, even Mom said, "Where are you going, John?" And he wouldn't tell us because he didn't want to get us all excited, us kids excited. And he just got up and left and went to the barn and didn't say a thing.
Because it was funny. I can remember like the week before, like, I mean, I didn't know anything about that. This, you know what I mean? And I said to Uncle John, I was like, this mare's teeth looks like she's bagging up or something. I said, and it's all waxed. Yeah, he said, maybe we'll have to put her on something. He said, maybe she's coming into heat real bad or something. And everybody just played it off. And like I said, she literally raced that night. I can't remember where she finished. But come back, put them all away, because we used to put them all away every night after the races. Everything would go back to the barn. And then there'd be one person in the bath stall doing harnesses and 2 people putting horses and that away. And then as soon as we were done, we'd sweep up, feed them supper, and Uncle John would take us all down the Rosse Avenue, down to Greco Donaire when it was the little round building there. We'd all go in there after the races and sit down and have a pizza. And the next morning I walked in and there was the foal.
They had a contest, right, to name her?
Yeah.
At Philly contest, they took the little baby up front in the grandstand and put a little green and white cooler on
Travis
it.
Fowler walked her
Travis
up.
Fowler did, yep. And put a little cooler on it, said baby of the year. And then there was, oh my God, I forget how many entries there was for names.
Yeah.
We have that picture somewhere.
Yeah, I think I have it downstairs.
But
Yeah.
It's funny. I wasn't even thinking about it. And then when I seen him stand there holding that pole, I was like, holy shit, I got a story.
That was at Paul Darius's, wasn't it?
That picture, I don't know where the picture was.
I think so.
Mm-hmm.
I think.
But
So
I can
that's fantastic. Go ahead, Mike.
I can remember us rushing around how he always used to ship for everybody. We were all over at Brian's barn one day. He had the truck and trailer already hooked up. And Brian, if you knew Brian, God bless him, Brian never had to worry about nothing. He had good help all the time. But Brian always stressed himself out, man. Until the last horse was jogged and they were pretty much done, he was red in the face and running around his barn like a chicken with his head cut off, making sure everything was done. So Brian's going out to train one, and Uncle John and me are getting ready to go to Fredericton. So the truck and trailer is parked right in front of Brian's barn. We had to put one of Brian's horses on, but Brian had one on the cross ties. So Uncle John said, Mike, throw that tailgate up for me. I'll move that truck ahead. So I threw the tailgate up, closed the tailgate, and Uncle John jumped in the truck, and he pulled it down around away from the front of Brian's barn. And Brian went out, and we weren't all thinking. Everybody was shooting the shit. He said, come on, hurry up, get in. I get in, we're going down. We stop at the Esso station where he always stopped and filled up. We stopped there at the Esso station. He's filling up, and he comes out and he gets on, and we start down Ross A. Avenue heading toward what we called it then, the new highway. You get on the new highway to go to Fredericton. I said, where are we going? He said, Fredericton. I said, Uncle John, I said, we're forgetting something. He goes, what's that? I said, we don't have a horse on board here, you know. I said, oh, we got the equipment and everything. He got in such a rush and get out of there and jumped in the truck. Once he's in the truck, you ain't getting him out. He'd pull wherever you were shipping, he'd pull up, he'd sit right there till you had everything all unloaded. I'll go park the truck and trailer. Yeah. He'd go find some place, dump the trailer, and all of a sudden you'd be out jogging or something. You look over, and whose truck would be parked right up front on the fence, right down next to the grandstand, sitting in it? Uncle John. So
Right
whenever
there.
you needed anything or needed to know anything for the horses, you had to run all the way over to the grandstand. Where's that horse wear a pole, or where does he wear this?
No cell phones back then. And
No.
3 or 4 people standing in the window, everybody trying to get in there to chit chat.
Yep.
So
It's funny
Chris,
about
question
the
for you.
Esso station. We always stopped there. You're right. We stopped at the Esso station. It wasn't Esso. It was, he always said it was every sucker sells oil.
Yeah.
We had to stop at every sucker sells oil and get gassed up. And then we're going to stop at the Irving and get a hot hamburger with peas. That was our road trips.
And then he
Like
stopped
Chris,
out there in Grand Falls at the pumpkin patch and get his 2-pound bag of green leaves.
Yeah.
Ate the hell
So
out
for
of
green
Chris,
leaves.
go ahead.
He loved those.
For Chris, for you, Chris, when you I asked everybody the same thing. What's your first memories of like racing, EPR, like the whole anything like that?
I remember being real young and doing all the work, right? Joanne, you never.
Tell the truth. Where'd you go on Saturdays?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I was at the grandstand a lot. I used to go. Dad used to give me $20, and you know how you say about things being frowned upon and stuff like that. I remember being real young, about 7, 8 years old, probably my little Michael's age right now, and Dad would give me $20, and he'd tell me to go over, like I would want to go, right? So I'd go over, and I remember I'd go sit with Myrtle Falcons and Everett, and we'd be up, and they'd always buy my tickets for me. Because anyways, there were certain sellers, I won't say any names, that would sell me my tickets and this and that. But
Don't sell them. They wouldn't cash them for you. They wouldn't cash them for you.
They some, but anyway, this is we're talking years ago, right? So so anyways, Dad always used to say to me, he'd be like, if you whatever you make, he's like, we'll split, because so that was great. So over I go, right? And I love doing that. So I went over this one day, and it was the biggest one I ever hit. I had a triactor, and I remember Mike Downey had a horse in post parade. And something about him, I just loved him. And I put him on top with the 2 favorites, but Mike was a long shot, right? Triactor came in, and I'm like 7 years old, 8 years old. It paid over $800. $800. So I came back to the barn. Myrtle actually drove it over for me. She drove me over to the barn. Actually, Everett did, excuse me, just so she made sure I got there and didn't lose it, right? And then in the barn, I
get dumped in the parking lot.
Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah. Anyways, that was the biggest triactor I ever hit. Like as far as being like I was so young, right? Yeah. And my mom I remember Mom used to tell Dad, John, he's gonna have a problem when he gets older. Now to this day, I could care less if I ever bet.
I remember my grandfather would come out of the bar because I'd be playing pinball. He'd have the program where he and I could. This is actually going to lead into a question in a second. But I mean, my friends are playing like with He-Man, and they got comic books. I'm reading race programs. Like, let's go with this one. Like, I knew it inside and out. And I think we've all experienced this. It might be like I don't want to say like a bad memory, but getting teased a bit as a kid. Like I got tortured as a kid for my harness racing love. Like the kids were mean as shit when we were kids. Do you remember that? Like a little bit, kind of like we got teased a little bit. I think because they didn't understand it. Like they didn't realize that
when all us my group, we never really got tortured. Like we all went to Simon's. There was me, Ross McDonald, Wayne Watson, and us. We used to get out early every day for work study. They all were behind us saying, "Oh, you get to go to the barn instead of staying in school." I'm like, "Yeah," but yeah, we used to get out. But I can remember we used to go to the Broken Q every night. Uncle John and Jody used to go over like almost every night. Used to be a pool hall right over in McAllister place.
Oh yeah, I remember Broken Q. Yeah, I remember it. Yeah.
He used to
But
give me
you go in there, and
Let me
everybody in there, I'll guarantee you 30% or 40% of the people in there either knew somebody or was with somebody or was somebody that was from the racetrack. Like, that place was crazy with all the horsemen. Jody would be over there and Uncle John. They go over and shoot snooker every night. It was like John Davidson, us, the Watson boys. I mean, it was crazy. Billy Smith, Porky. I mean, I can't think of his real name now, but the whole east side of St. John. Really,
Donnie Mahar, yeah.
The whole east side of St. John really was horse racing.
It is true.
What was your memory of the Broken Q, Joe?
Oh, they used to give me all this, I don't know, snooker balls that they got in the holes. They'd put them on the little table for me and I'd shoot them around. Probably supposed to be in there, but somehow dads would sneak me in, I guess. I don't know. I can't imagine in the pool hall, but
Uncle John could snow to an Eskimo.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you never had to worry about him getting you in someplace, or like if you were going someplace, say, "Oh shit, man, we ain't got a thing for the car." Don't worry about it.
Oh my God, I
we
remember that.
Get there, you'd have the front spot. You could have the Queen's parking spot by the time he was done.
Don't say he said don't worry about it. His famous phrase was always, just sit there and shut up.
Yeah.
I have a couple more pictures too coming up. I don't know.
I remember going into Summerside Raceway on like exhibition week, and the security guard would be hollering at Dad, and he's like, "Do you not know who I am? I'm Big John, and I'm parking right up front. Same thing in Fredericton. Call them on the phone. Tell them Big John's here, and he wants to come through the gate." Like,
and they would, and they'd tell him, "Yeah, let him through.
Let him go. It's easier."
Good go.
Those are our bonus for all of us. I think as kids that with the exhibition, we get to hook up with tickets. Like, I remember.
Him and Dad.
John Davies.
Wasn't it Jody's owner that always had it?
Yeah. Soggy Reed.
Soggy Reed.
And the big
John
guy,
Davies
big guy Pepsi used to run for him. Pepsi used to give all the trainers all the tickets for their kids. He'd come over there the week, like the day before the exhibition would start, Pepsi, and he'd walk through everybody's barn and he'd just start handing them stacks of tickets for their kids and stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah. John Davies would drive me over once, me and my friend, because we didn't want to pay to get in. So we go to John's barn. John puts us on jog cart. He says, "You need some tickets?" I guess he goes in his pocket, hands us a bunch of tickets. I'm like, oh my God.
Yep.
So, but I remember the joke was go with me because I know the people around there, right? So yeah, that was a big deal. Well, if you show a few pictures here, let's take a look at what we got. Might not be you guys for all I know, it's not labeled. So
Stargaze time. Gerald Alexander.
Todd, right?
And who's in there? Where you guys at? Is that you right by Todd?
I'm right by Todd.
I got the horse by the head.
That's Paula. That's Paula.
Okay.
Alexander.
Oh, Jerry.
Gerald Alexander. He was a nice man.
Yeah, he was.
We have that one. So we have another one right here. Brian.
Bill Karen Hustler. I remember I had to help out with all those horses.
I look cold.
You
I'm not talking about
grandstand.
I was in betting. I had to throw the coat on real quick.
You came out of the grandstand.
That might have been the day.
Back in them days, they used to be cold in St. John.
Yes.
Woo.
And they would race.
It's not that anymore.
No.
Nowadays, they'd cancel.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
I gotta think about karma for little Christopher Davies here. There's a little thing about karma.
Because the tapes got wet?
No, this is Christopher laughing.
Oh,
Oscar, yeah. And I just let him go at that point. He came right out of my hand and just took an immediate left, and right up he went. I'll never forget that day. Yeah, that was his thing right there. I remember he would do that in Fredericton. He raced the top class when I brought him home from Maine, and he won. Wayne Watson, my God, he could drive him. And he'd stand right up in his hind legs. You know how the Fredericton grandstand's all open. they would cheer and clap for him. And I swear to God, he'd stay up there for like 10, 11 seconds. He'd just stand there. Oh, and then he'd come down and away he'd go, right? But the people in the grandstand were just losing their mind. And yeah, he was quite a horse. That's not him.
It's a little Christmas face, everybody. Look at Christmas face.
Yeah.
That's
I had him and
who is it?
That's HP Bushido
drag jet or whatever.
Oh,
that's
I
him.
drove it. Oh, that was the fellow you put me on in Bangor that time.
That's him, Mike. Yeah, I remember that day we were in post parade, and I used to get him excused post parade because he was so hot. And anyways, I got along with him pretty good. I trained him down that winter, and everything was great. I qualified him. I won the qualifier with him in like 59. Like he was really good. Beat some nice horses in the qualifier that day. But of course, you go right to the gate, right? So anyways, I used to, the post parade's what killed him. So I used to try to get him excused post parade. Well, this day here, I remember Dougie was on the fence, and I said to him, his buckskin came undone on the side. So anyways, I just wrote it Dougie. I was like, could you jump in? Because Dougie owned him, right? So him and Keith, and I said, could you?
Keith was the kid.
Yeah, could you jump?
Me this picture. He goes, I don't know if you know the driver. I said, oh, good Lord.
Yeah, and Johnny Davidson Jr. owned a piece of him too, and then little Dougie and Keith, and I remember I said, Doug, come, fasten this Buxton or whatever, and he jumped the fence, man, and he couldn't get. This horse just stood right straight up on his hind legs, like literally, like he's on one foot there, and I didn't. I swear to God, it happened so quick that I didn't even have time to think about getting off.
So what was the end result? Did he go back down or did he go backwards?
He came down. I jumped on. We went to the gate, and I think I was third. Top class. It was top class of the day. He's a good horse. That horse had
a nice little horse. I sent him home and he called.
Yeah, you had him, Jan, didn't you?
Yeah, I trained him for a while. He raced Plain Ridge and stuff.
Yeah.
And then he took him home to give him a little break, and I think he colicked or something, and they lost him.
Yeah, that was after. I think I had him, and then you got him, Jan, didn't you, or something?
Yeah, I had him down here for a while. I raced him. That's what Michael said. He said, what in the hell did you just put me on? I'm like, run you home.
Well, not only, you don't mind a smaller horse.
He could pull, as Uncle Johnny used to say, he could pull the paint off the goddamn wall.
Oh, my God. You had no arms in the race.
You never got the chance the day I drove him.
Nope. Down the road.
Takes two to pull, big fella.
Yeah, the worst part was he couldn't.
He won it that day.
Oh,
he couldn't really leave a whole lot, though. Either.
No, leave enough to get you in trouble.
Yeah, he was no fun.
Chris, question for you. How did your dad feel when someone told me he wanted to race? What was your dad's reaction to you wanting to race horses?
Great. Bought me a brand new bike. And,
okay.
And every set of colors that I had, he bought.
Scott, you know what Uncle John said? Free help. I'll give him all the drives he wants. Yes, I ain't got to pay help now.
And I'd work like crazy all day long, wouldn't we, Mike? Like, and you'd be across the yard at that point.
My God, times changed. I always worked for a damn pizza after the races.
I would have worked for a pizza too.
And Michael's saying he had 3 people. How did that ever happen? I had to get Merzuki and Bettina or Jody or anybody I could pull in. Come help me.
You were probably one of the 3.
Hands on the back of the chair. Didn't paint that one. You got to paint his feet. Make sure you pick them out.
Natalie used to be there.
Yeah.
Tara. Lynn Cameron, me. There was we have 12 or 14 there.
Mm-hmm.
You know the thing though, you wanted to be there though.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nobody cared. Nobody looked at the clock.
Oh
yeah, that's I don't. I've been saying before. If you're in this business, you better have a passion for it. Because if you don't have a passion for it, don't even get involved in it. There's no point. So I'm going to bring up Chris's first. I think this is your first win, Chris. I'm pretty sure it is. You don't think it is?
Burton Bird.
Well, we're going to find out. It's coming up. This is your first win. So I think here it is.
On you, Travis Fowler. They're up. To the inside, Lulu goes to work on Katahdin Country. To the outside, stablemate Camco Kyle. 3 deep to the outside. Eyes on you. There's action in the turn. They're 3 deep. Who's it gonna be? Lulu shows the way. Katahdin Country. Camco Kyle. Christopher Davey goes to work early. She's got her hands full to the outside. Eyes on you. Backs off third. Rolls the regulation. Gapped out fourth. It's now Camco Kyle, opening quarter. 30-2. Cut, Todd and Country. Stablemate sitting 2. Eyes on You. 3rd, a gap of 4. Rules and Regulation. Camco Kyle by the 3/8. Christopher Davies looks well in hand. Back a 3 lengths back. Cut, Todd and Country. There we got action to the outside now. Here comes Colin DeCourcy. Rules and Regulations. He's on the outside. Now 3rd. 4th on the rail. Eyes on You. They're by the half. 1 minute 4 fifths. Christopher Davies, Camco Kyle by 4.5. Rules and Regulation to the outside. On the outside, Eyes on You will be looking for cover. They swing by the 5/8. Camco Kyle, he leads by 3 to the inside. Rules and Regulation. Cut, Todd and Country. Eyes on You to the outside. It's all Camco Kyle. 3/4. On 30 and 2. It's not who's going to win, but how fast is he going to go? Camco Kyle by 4. Rules and Regulation. Back to 7, back to Todd and Country. Eyes on You 4th. They come off the top stretch. It's all Camco Kyle and Christopher Davies. He shows the whip. He tucks her away. Camco Kyle by 5. Rules and Regulation. Todd and Country. Eyes on You, Tommy Armao. Ladies and gentlemen, you witness it. 1:59 4 fifths. Number 2, Camco Kyle. He's on in partnership with the Burchill family, Christopher Davies. A lot of guys will go their whole lifetime. This guy's first start behind the racing gate breaks the 2-minute burial. Let's have a big hand for young and upcoming Christopher Davies. Tommy Armao. 1:59 and 4 coming up final half and 59 seconds flats.
Bring on all starters for race 9.
All
right.
Amateur race.
Who was driving guitar?
By none other than Mr. Randy Phillips.
That was Randy announcing. That was
Yeah.
That was Linda. She parked me for God's sake. Stablemate, and she gave me the air.
I feel like we had three in there. Did we have Eyes on You then too? Because we had
No, I think Steve Mahar had Eyes on You then. I think.
Had it went a little bit further, Scott, you would have seen Dad, his Chevy parked in the
Mike,
center.
Mike was it? No, that was for my first.
Oh, that
win,
was Bert's race. Never mind.
Yeah, that was an amateur race. I remember they were going to do that amateur race, and I remember I wanted to take something, but I'd never been behind the gate for. Honest to God, I had never even been in the bike before. And no, I hadn't. Jog cart, like literally, I think I might have trained, like dropped the gloves a few times, like prior to that. And Dad said,
yeah, one thing, you'll get educated training him.
He was great 1:40. You know what I mean? But I remember Dad said to me, he's like, Chris, he's like, when those wings open, well, first of all, I didn't know who I was going to take. At first, I was going to take Todd and Country, and then Linda, because that was Lulu. She ended up taking him. Yeah. And he said, I remember he said to me, he's like, well, take Kyle. I mean, that Kyle was just coming off. He was like, as a 3-year-old, Mike, you know how he was. He broke a couple. He was a good horse. And I was like, yeah, there's no way you're ever going to let me take him. He let me take him. Yeah, and he said just put his nose on the gate. He said he'll do the rest, you know, and he did. He was a nice horse. That horse, Janet, he was in your neck of the woods.
No, I heard you mention the name. Roy Jarman had Old Glovers until last year. He just lost him.
Oh, go away! My God, wow! Did he ever live a good life?
He kept him right in his backyard this whole time. I said, "Don't you ever get rid of that horse." That was Uncle John's baby.
He meant a lot to Dad. Dad bought him off of Sean Dooley, and he was. I don't know. A lot of people that watch this will probably know the horse, but he used to make breaks. Mike knows.
Oh, dirty.
Yeah, dirty breaks. And no, really, I remember one day Jill was driving them, and he was winning. He took him, spun Jill right around sideways in the bike. I'll never forget that.
Oh, yeah, he did them dirty bunny hop.
Yeah, and he knew how to run, though, the bugger. Like, he knew how to get out of the way.
Listen to Michael. Oh, yeah.
It's all killed.
Like, Mike, I think you probably won the majority with him, Mike, you and Jill.
But if he could stay flat, I too.
Oh my
Oh,
God.
Yeah.
he's fast.
If you could
I
ever
don't-
trust that horse, he was a fast horse.
He was
Well,
fast.
Janet, I remember when you guys first got him. I remember the very first start you guys raced him. I think he paced in 53,
Mhm.
and then I think because Aunt Diane and Dad owned him together,
Right.
and I think then he was sold. I think we sold him shortly after that. Did we not?
Yeah, Roy bought him. Roy
bought him,
everybody.
and he kept him for all these years. Can
We
you
just
imagine?
lost him, I'm pretty sure, last year.
Yeah,
Aw,
messaged me because I remember we went.
Did I? Yeah.
I went to see Gloves at the farm.
you
Yeah.
didn't tell me that, Joanne. Gee.
It was a long time ago. Yes, I did.
That he passed?
In it. Oh, that he passed away. Yes, I did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What a
First,
nice
your
horse.
first,
He had the big white star on his head. I remember him.
Mhm.
your first strike was like, what are you? Be real. Are you nervous driving your first race ever, even though it's an amateur race? Or are you kind of like,
With him?
we're just
with
going
him?
with the flow? Mm.
Oh, shit and bricks.
Okay. So what are you thinking? Please don't get into an accident. Please don't get into an accident. Please don't get into
No,
an
I
accident.
try not to think about that too much. Like, that's the last thing you want to think about. But I'm sure it probably. You know, when you're that young, you don't really think about that.
All he was saying, like, oh my God, I can't compete with this horse in here.
Exactly.
Compete with this horse in here.
As Lulu's giving me the air. Geez, I better tap him on the tail here. This is starting to look real bad.
So
And Mike,
Go ahead.
Mike broke that horse and got him to what he was. He was the nice horse that he was because of Mike.
He was a nice colt. Yep.
My God, Mike, I remember you trained him down, and he could come a back half in like 57 seconds, just like.
And it's a shame too, because his brother that they bought,
Mario,
was a way better looking horse and a better gated horse, but was nowhere near the horse he was.
Well, Mike, remember you got? I remember. I'll never forget that day. You were in. We were going to Inverness, and one of them, I don't know who it was, whatever driver was down. Anyways, it happens. I'm sure you know it is what it is. Or, you know, and he came right in and cut the front legs right in from it, and that colt did a somersault. Remember?
And he was never the same after that.
No,
that was funny you said that, because I remember that. I landed on my right side that day.
Yeah.
My elbow and the cheek of my ass were all raspberried up, and all
Didn't you roll?
All I kept saying, Uncle John, man, it's gonna be a long ride home. It's gonna be a long.
Well, from Inverness to boot, right?
But I rolled up, and the horse had gotten up and took off, and I rolled up, and I was out by the fence, and I sat down, and the guy tapped me on the shoulder, and I turned around, and he had a brand new can of Pepsi. He goes, "You all right?" And I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Here, you want a drink?" And he popped the top off the Pepsi. And I turned around. I said, "Actually, I will take a drink of that." Yeah. When I turned around and I grabbed the Pepsi, I looked at the guy and I said, "Is that a graveyard behind you?" And the guy said, "Yeah." I said, "Man, how fitting. A graveyard in the first turn at Inverness Raceway."
Right? Oh, my God. And he was an ice cold. I remember Camco Kyle, Dad, well, we had a mare. Her name was Royal Minx. And this goes back to the Sonny Mac days, because I remember Sonny Mac and Royal Minx always used to race against each other in the cheaper claimers at that point in time, or the cheaper conditions. And I remember Joanne and I used to have this big battle going on every single week. Who was going to beat who? You know, Sonny Mac and Royal Minx. Well, Mike Stevenson comes home from the Meadowlands. And I remember I looked at the sheet and Dad said, "Look who's driving your mare." He said, "JoJo won't touch her this week." You know what I mean? Like that, right? Anyways, Mike was driving Royal Minx. And I remember you sat, and then you moved him, and you and Gordy Hennessy was driving Sonny Mac, and Mike was driving my mare, Royal Minx, and you guys just drove off on the field. Remember that?
The tractor, $1,600.
Yeah, you guys opened up like lengths. You were like, "Hey," and didn't Gordy look over at you, Mike, and say, "Who's supposed to win this?"
Right?
Yeah, and then you're coming from home. All you can see is you just tapped the wheel disc once, and she just drove right on by.
Yep. Uncle John always had a good stable.
And then, well,
he didn't keep them around, God bless him. He was good that way with his owners. I'll tell you, if they weren't going to do, he told them, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they didn't stick around long.
Yeah, if they weren't, he wouldn't charge anybody a bill.
He was always good. He'd turn horses over. He'd tell them, say, you know, got to get rid of.
So Royal Minx ended up being the mother of Camco Kyle. And I remember we got to the sale. We had Joanne's little black Cavalier, and we got to the sale just in time to buy him. I think he was number 2 or 3 in the sale, and Dad didn't even have a chance to go look at him. And I think 3,100 is what he went for.
Yeah, he didn't get much.
And I think the horse went on to make, because he ended up down there with Joanne Jimmy King Jr. and Tim Tetrick and them, and he went on to make like $500,000, I think, almost. Or
he was a nice horse, man.
He was a good one. Yeah.
So I'm going to show a couple quick pictures here, and then we'll take a quick little break. If anybody wants to do anything, then we'll come back and finish up. We're doing good. We're about an hour in. Here's Joanne accepting an award at the 1996. Look at this. That's you, right, Joanne?
Joanne and Janice.
Look at the glasses on. You can see.
No, I think that's Jan.
That's Janice Hubbard and me. Yep.
Oh, it is Janice.
Yeah. It's all high. What did you win there? Do you remember, Joanne?
I feel like it might have been best dressed horse. I don't know.
I thought like they were doing like Make a Wish or something for you.
My horse is always good, just like Janet. I learned from the best. They always have a fluff on and
the Elmo Cup.
The little braids in their hair.
Here we go with another picture of Chris.
Oh, that's the amateur race.
Yeah, that's Kyle.
That's the same race. Okay, yeah.
Camco Kyle, yeah.
We have right here.
That's Scarborough.
Is that Maine?
He's on
Ontario.
tour.
Yeah, Scarborough.
Best race ever. I remember.
Joanne, Mike, you know where the paddock was in Scarborough?
Yeah.
Joanne was down there, and I went with Oscar that day, and there was no way she was making that winner's circle. No way. Yeah. No way.
Screaming though.
Yeah. I remember that day. Kevin Switzer Jr. left out, and I let him go. And he roared me as I was letting him go. Thanks, kid. Right. So, anyways, we're going to 3/4, and he's all out, but Kevin can keep one alive. So, anyways, his horse, he kept him alive right until we got to the head of the stretch. All of a sudden, I had room, and he made sure that he repaid that favor. And I socked up the rail, and I win by like 3 or 4. That like he was, never forget that.
Kevin's good.
He's a great guy. Yeah.
I keep removing myself so you guys didn't have more room. Will you notice that? I pop off the screen. Remember, I'm just the MC.
Good, buddy.
I'm just the MC. I'm the guy that's just showing the pictures and letting you guys talk, which I love that. I've never really had anybody yet that hasn't said anything, but you guys are awesome.
Shy.
You guys.
Hey, we're all related to the big guy. We know how to talk.
I'm going to show my favorite horse that Chris has. Is this? Yeah, there he is. Midnight McNeil. I love that horse. When I came up to visit that time.
That's Big Mac. That's Midnight McNeil. He's such a nice horse.
When I came up to visit that time, and I was in the barn, and I was sitting. What was the first thing he stole from? I think he tried to steal my beer.
Yeah.
So he tried to steal my
If you're
chair.
close, he will. He'll take anything.
He'll take your chair.
He put his head in the chair and popped it up and tried to bring it into the stall with him.
Oh, he's so kind.
He's playful, right? Playful.
And he's so good with the kids.
I was trying to get.
Yeah. He wanted the broom then. That's who's going for at this point was the broom.
There's Dad's stable board.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I always have that up.
And so we have a few more races to show. We have one from somebody that he was going to come on today, but I couldn't get him. He was busy. But I'm going to get him tomorrow because we're going to put this up probably Wednesday. So watch this. We're recording on Monday. Wally. I actually talked to Wally this morning.
Yes.
But he was busy. He was going to, I'm going to get a hold of him probably tomorrow. We'll do a little piece about your father because Wally was a big fan. But I have that race from the island where he races. I can't pronounce the name of the horse.
Katahdin
It's Joanne's horse, I think. Yep.
That was my first training win.
Oh, really? Okay, well, perfect. I have first amateur win and your first training win.
Yeah.
So bring that up. That's from Old Home Week. I think, what is it, 2006? Something like that?
Yeah.
Something like that, yeah.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll bring it up. Here it comes.
Palace of Gold, Let's Talk Joe, Katahdin Country. Bucky all educated, mistletoe. Bert and Ernie, top of the stretch. Here they come. Women of Steel is on the run at the start. Let's Talk Joe leaving out along the rail, Palace of Gold, and to their outside, Bert and Ernie leaving out. Katahdin Country away on the rail, 4th, into the turn and racing from 5th. At the inside is Educated. Away 6th, along the rail, going up the backstretch is Mistletoe. Then 7th on the route to the opening quarter mile, Bucky All. And the early trailer, that's Women of Steel. All with pylon positions on the front end. Let's Talk Joe has the early say. In line to Gary Chapel. In the 2-hole as they move into the turn, that's Palace of Gold, 29 and 2/5 quarter mile. Rounding the turn and racing 3rd is Bert and Ernie, Katahdin Country. has fourth. Pacing fifth is Educated on the rail in sixth. That's Mistletoe. Pacing seventh at the inside. That is Bucky All, and Women of Steel is trailing the field. They approach the half mile. Here comes the backfield in motion. On the front end, Let's Talk Joe, the leader. Palace of Gold is second. Here comes Katahdin Country. Going to be first up on the outside, third. In at the rail, Burton Ernie goes fourth. Moving out fifth. That is Educated, and she's looking to go 3 high here. Pacing sixth, Mistletoe. Around the turn, Bucky All seventh, and the trailer is a Women of Steel. 59 and 2 for an opening half mile as they roll up the back stretch. Let's Talk Joe, the leader. They're coming 3 high after him. Educated has gone off stride. Educated on the run. Katahdin Country now is second. Racing third, Palace of Gold. Along the inside, Burton Ernie is fourth. Pacing from fifth. That's Mistletoe. 3/4 in a 1:29 and 2 fast. Let's Talk Joe bringing them down the lane. Katahdin Country on the outside. Up the rail. Palace of Gold. Burton Ernie along the inside. Coming right down to the wire. Katahdin Country and Wally Hennessy. Let's Talk Joe is second. It might have been Mistletoe third. However, we will need a show picture.
It's a great opportunity to talk to a future Hall of Famer and a guy that stopped by the other day to say hello, and nice to have him here in the winner's circle. That's Wally Hennessy. And Wally, great to have you here in the winner's circle tonight. A little test drive, I guess you could say, before the big trial tonight. How's the track?
Well, the track's excellent. It's great to be back home. And then with Joanne Davies, the trainer here, when I first went to St. John about 30-some years ago, he was one of the first guys to let me drive, so it's pretty special.
Yeah, very nice. We're going to let you get in the winner's circle here, and then we might coming up tonight on the trial.
All right, thanks.
All right. So is Wally.
The best.
Wally is the best.
Yeah, Wally's awesome.
Yeah.
Poor guy. I always.
We did.
What's that?
They did a little article on who Dylan and me stand in the winner's circle. I look like Joanne. I'm down here and she was up there. And Wally's just a grinning. He always used to say, "Janny, she went great tonight." He always said it. Always.
Yeah.
He loves
this business is so interesting when it comes to people who like leave. Like even Mike yourself, like you've had major success in the U.S. and Wally, and even like, but these guys don't forget where they came from.
No.
And it's a lot of business people forget pretty quickly when they become successful where they came from.
I think the common denominator with all of us was Uncle Johnny. You know, he always said you never, ever, ever forget where you came from, no matter how successful you get. And the other line that I'll never forget, and matter of fact, Eric's done a couple interviews, and he always says it. He always told me, you only get out what you put in. Because there used to be days like, do I really have to paint all these things feet again today? And he's like, you only get out what you put in, kid.
Yeah.
And me and Chris were joking one time about how, we're talking like old men, how the kids aren't like the way they used to be. I'll tell you one thing. For me, growing up as a teenager, I was the laziest teenager on the planet. As a 5-year-old,
Johnny's barn.
if you put me in the racetrack between the ages of 5 and 10, I would do anything they asked. So something about that. As a kid, you didn't care. It was like you just want to be part of it, right?
Yeah.
So you would do stuff like that. So let me go into here. We're not pitchers, so we're gonna keep going. Chris, I have a question for you actually, and then we're gonna show another video. We'll bring the kids on. Your most memorable win, Chris. And I'll ask Mike and that, and Joanne. You don't race, thank God, because we'd all be dead if you did. I'm just kidding.
She's light. She's light.
That's true, but she'd probably
like
take a nap.
right there.
I still have a happy win too, even though I didn't drive.
Okay, well, you know what? I'm going to have everybody answer the question. How's that sound? We'll start with Chris. Most memorable win, racing.
Well, my first one was pretty memorable. I remember because I just remember so much about it. Right, I remember I was driving Bert, and prior to the race, Dad said to me, "He's good tonight." And he's like, "Don't even." He's like, "Just leave out and just don't even look for anything." You know what I mean? Like literally, don't look for anything. So, anyways, I remember I was just like I was a little late getting to the gate, and I was just half. It was kind of a half laugh with him, and I I remember Lonnie Stokes opened up the 5-hole for me. Anyway, I looked over at Lonnie. Like, I just remember so much about the race. I looked over at Lonnie, and I remember Lonnie said, "Chris, get in." And at that point, it was a little unsure, you know what I mean, of like the front end. Like, I couldn't just like roll over like quick like you can once you get a little more experience, right? So, anyways, I looked over and I said, "Nope." I said, "Dad said drive on," like that, right? And then, do you know what Lonnie said? "Well, you're all set then." And he tapped his horse on the tail. I think it was Salzburg Dandy. He tapped his horse on the tail, filled up the hole. I sat parked every step of the way and drove off and win in 2-1 or something like that. So I'd say that was my most memorable. And then when I drove Jacob quite a bit when he was the winningest horse in Canada towards the end, I drove him a lot. And I got his 21st win of the season with him. That was pretty memorable too. Just because, I mean, it was a crappy day. It was snowing and blowing and cold, but he got 21 wins on the year like that day. It was pretty cool. So those two.
Yes. So we'll go over to Mike. Because you've had a lot of wins, Mike. I mean, maybe you want to pick one or two, your most memorable wins. But if you think of one,
my milestone wins were all good ones. Like my thousands with my buddy Mark in St. John. That was a good one.
What a good horse.
Rose
he wore everything.
Rose's Blue Chip. I won my 2000s with her here. She's one of my own too, so that was good. And I guess the other two would be a toss-up between Toontown was a good win when I beat Presidential Ball and all of them at the Meadowlands in a leg of the Presidential Series. And who else? Quality of Life when he went in 50 at Lexington. Winning a race at Lexington was pretty incredible. I had a great meet that spring, but he was a good horse. And the other Maritime horse got me to where I was. So I messed up myself, but Jaguar Knight, he was before his time, that horse won 8 out of 10 his last 10 starts at the Meadowlands, and he won 4 in a row the last 4, and the slowest mile was 51-4, and that was back in 1996. So I mean, you stop and put that into today. He was a gorilla horse. Like that horse there, and like he was a funny horse. Like during the stretch when he won the 8 out of 10, one of the times he got beat, I couldn't drive. I had days where I think I was in Ohio driving Little Dory in a stake race, and I couldn't be at the Meadowlands that night, and Cat drove him. And so I came back the next week, and I drove Jag the next week, and Cat had Apache Max in there, and I come early, and we were head and head, I'm going to say from the 3/8 pole on at the Meadowlands, more or less just riding out there, because that horse was so quirky. Like if you put him on the front, he'd look to get beat. If you cleared with him early, he'd look to get beat. But if you kept him parked out first up to the top of the stretch, it took a good horse to go by him. And I was head and head with Cat all the way from the 3/8 pole on and all the way through the lane. And he got up and he won by like a head. Cat was second. And like there were some good horses in there that day too. I think Bally Carney and them were 3rd and 4th. Anyway, there was when we were in the front paddock then, so we came back to the front paddock. They took the picture and all that, and the grooms take the horses back down the track to the back paddock. And I'm walking in, and I'm going into the driver's room, and all of a sudden I feel this big thump, and I got hit in the back of the head, and I turned around, and Cat threw his whip at me. He said, he always called me boy. He said, "What'd you do, boy? Feed that thing rocks all last week?" He said you didn't want to beat nobody last week. He said, "You were first over and in my face the whole way." He said, "And I couldn't beat you with a stick," he said, tonight. I said, "I told you not to clear early with him last week." And he started laughing. But no, those were some pretty impressive horses. And big trips, very memorable. Like that horse went from being totally obscure or nobody to, I was a player between him and Falconius Crown on Saturday nights at the Meadowlands. I think there was 3 or 4 times when I'd win 2 out of our barn. Those 2 there both went on a Saturday night at the Meadowlands. And that was back when really something, you know what I mean? You look over behind the gate, them nights you had LaChance, John, Billy,
Ronnie Pierce.
It was Ron. It was all of them, you know what I mean? And nowadays you go down there, and I don't know half of the guys down there now. It's like, but no, it was those ones there were my favorites. Like especially winning the milestone races with horses out of my own barn. You know, like my buddy Mark with my 1000th, and then Roja's Blue Chip here 2 years ago out of my barn, and you know, for my 2000th, and you know, those ones sit well.
You know, I actually have in that track. I don't remember that or not, guys. That track was a show from the '80s, and Mike, there's an interview with you on there. I can't remember what episode it is, but you're on there. You're pretty young. Maybe if I find, I'll send it to your wife. You can take a look at it. It's like I ended up getting tapes of them, like two tapes, 8 hours long. And the track was a half-hour episode, so I went through and I edited them all and put them episode by episode. So that's pretty cool. Janet, for you, I mean, groom, trainer, what was some of your most memorable wins?
Anything with Hoot Dillon was always memorable. Diamond Digger was memorable. For my own career, I would definitely say the horse we were talking about earlier, Drop the Gloves. He went in 53 and a piece, and Mom and Uncle Johnny owned them together. So that was pretty memorable for me. I was, you know, it's all
family.
Heart touching, I guess. I don't know. For me as a trainer with Eddie, I would say probably Devil's Embrace. He was my first sub 50 win. He went in 49 and 4 at the Meadowlands. That was, I don't think my feet ever touched the ground in the winter circle. It was pretty something special. And I'd probably say Good Skies. He was a trotter that we had. I always went to the yearling sales with Al, who was our owner, our partner at the time. And there was one up here in Chesapeake City at Wimback, and it was only 40 minutes away. And Eddie's like, well, I'll go to this one. I'm like, of course you will. So I got the barn done here, and I was home, and you could always get online and watch the sale live. And where Eddie and Al were sitting, I seen them on the camera. And I called Eddie, and he never answered his phone. I said, pick up your phone. Called him again, and he answered it. I said, thank you. I said, now don't you bid unless we're in agreement. He's like, what? I said, stand up. He goes, I'm not going to stand up. I said, well, lean forward. And he started leaning forward. I said, okay, sit back. He goes, where in the hell are you? I said, I'm watching I'm watching you live at home. You're right in the middle of the camera. So I started going through videos, and I picked out Good Skies. He was a trotting colt. And I said, let's buy him for ourselves, because Al was looking at the Quick Pulse Mendale fillies. And we ended up going in partnership with Al, and we ended up buying him. And he was like 12-1 in the final down here, going for 100,000 and the favorite run. And he couldn't go fast, but he would always trot. He never would run. He was just as honest as the day was long, had terrible feet. And he went, and I'll never forget it. I had a cigarette in this hand and a Coke in this hand, and the announcer hollered Good Skies, and I just went
threw it off.
And I just, of course, started crying. And Al Moore Jr. is a very big name here in Delaware, and I was pretty honored. That was his first ever stake race win. And then my other one was probably Go Nano Go. We bought him from Eddie's uncle. They get him qualified. He raced the bottom class and run. They get him qualified, and we ended up training him for him. And then he wanted to sell him, so we bought him for $30,000, and he ended up making us over probably $350,000. Him and Devil and Papa Top Pop, who I just did an interview with Heather, and he's probably my biggest accomplishment as a trainer with my husband. We born, bred, and raised him, and at the time I had broke my leg, and I had a cast from my toes right up to my hip, and he was the mare was falling out and I couldn't get in there and get down with this 32-inch cast on. And the kid that was working for me, I made him go in there and I'm nursing him through because she couldn't get him out and his heart wasn't beating. So I'm trying to walk him through it all. But anyways, we born, bred, and raised him, and he never left the family in his whole career in 12 years. He stayed right here with us, and then he ended up winning his last race ever at Rosecroft. So that one was pretty special too. To be able to say that you're born, bred, and raised and kept him for 14 years. He's out with Devil and Go Dano Go.
Eating off the land.
I have a problem about getting rid of them. They kind of just stick around.
Janet, what about Snickers?
Yeah. I was just going to say that.
Snickers had so many. He was probably, I know people win the Hambletonian, the little brown jugs, but when I walked that little bugger into the paddock every week, everybody was just like, oh, she showed up. He was probably one of the gutsiest horses, not only that I've trained, but that I've ever been around.
Dad never missed many of his races.
Oh, he was a
TRN.
He was tough. And they never ever announced him. The announcer here at Delaware never said Snickers Hanover. 90% of the time it was, and here comes Snickers.
Yeah. He was a good horse.
He was a beast. I remember when they went up to the sale and Scott West, Eddie used to drive the horse for Scott, and he said, my owners are just getting rid of him. He said, he's going to be in at Harrisburg. And Eddie actually went to the sale with Al. That was the last time he went, was with Snickers. And he come back and he goes, I don't know what we're getting into. You have a maritime girl that's used to, Hoot Dillons and Jolly Good Times. And you got Eddie, who's a little Delaware guy. And he comes back and he said, we bought wraps. I want to put them in that stall. We had one stall that had rubber mats all the way around the wall. And I'm like, what did you do? He goes, babe, we just gave $60,000. I said, you did what? You gave what? Yeah, I'm like, wrap that bitch in bubble wrap. Like, I was so nervous, so scared. He jogged in tendon boots and knee boots.
Yeah.
That was our first, I guess for me, my United States humongous purchase. I mean, we only bought a third of them, but holy freak of nature, that's a lot of money. Now you look at them. I watch it on gate. You can't buy a horse for, that's just a drop in the bucket now. But back then, he was so tough. So tough.
He was a great little horse.
We raced him at the fair, and I thought I'd get him in the backup class. And Eddie sat parked the whole entire mile and come 3 wide at the 3/4. And Jack said, look out, here he comes. Here comes Snickers. And he was just amazing. He was a lot of great memories with him as well. Yeah, you're right. And Uncle Johnny you're right, he never missed. He'd always call, little fella got her done again.
I remember when Joanne was down there and she bought a horse, and then he came off the trailer, and you were with, well, Janet, and he came off the trailer and Dad's like, no, that's not him. That can't be him. No, that's not him.
Please don't let it be him.
Please don't let it. What, didn't he have 2 big bowed tendons? Or
it was him.
Like that?
His name was Bozo.
He was well named. Yeah, 2 big bows. Dad's like, no, that can't be him.
Are we leading into what Joanne's favorite horses or favorite wins, I guess?
So
as an owner,
what? No, it was just an owner. Just a groom. When Christopher,
we own horses too.
When Christopher and I used to race, Oscar, Dusty Lane Oscar, he started just as a cheap old claimer, and there was a few people complaining because we were beating them every week, but nobody wanted to claim him because of the legs on him. So Christopher's like, all right, you guys want me to race the top class? I'll race the top class. So we raced the top class, and we beat the doors right off them. It was the best thing ever. It was fantastic. And every time that we would go to race, Christopher would get mad at me because I'd be looking, if Christopher was driving, well, I had to figure out who was going to catch him by the head because you saw the picture. He'd stand straight up, and I'd be up in the air with him. So Christopher would say, Joanne, we haven't even made it to the winner's circle yet. And I'm like, it doesn't matter, Christopher, we're going. I need to find someone to hold this horse by the head. And every time we'd end up in the winner's circle, and Christopher would say, I don't know how you do it, but stop doing that. You're going to jinx me. I'm like, no, we're winning. We're fine. I just got to find somebody to hold him by the head. And then the other most memorable, it's just a Team Davies win, was when we won Dad's Memorial last year. That was the best.
And we're going to show that here in a minute.
With
it's
Lions,
going to
Jenny
come
Lee, especially with Mom owning part of her. She's never owned a horse in her life. I'm sure Dad loved every minute of it.
Yeah,
He's
I
probably
have
still
that.
wondering how the hell you guys got that job done.
I'm going to show the last quarter of it, or last last quarter. I did actually want to show the entire video, but it was too long. So not long to size wise, quality wise, I couldn't put it in, so I had to cut it. But anyway, but I'm going to show that right now, and then we're going to bring on the next generation of Davies here in a second. Once we're done this video, and we're going to finish it off with more video. But this one here is the John C. Davies Memorial, Lions Jenny Lee, and we have the winner's circle part too. So that's why I have the last quarter than the real circle part. So I'm going to bring that up right now.
1:27.4 was the time. There's an eighth of a mile left to go. Lions Jenny Lee is homeward bound. Top of her trade to the outside. Mrs. Dragonfire third. Southfield Sky fourth. Deep stretch. Now here's Lions Jenny Lee to triple up Kenny Murphy in the John Davies Memorial. Time for the mile. 1:56.4. Lions Jenny Lee arriving at the Woodmere Standardbred Winners Circle here in the 9th. Bay pacing mare 8 by Some Beach Somewhere off the Art Major Dam, Jamaica, Hanover. Owned by Chris Davies, Suzanne Davies, and Carol Wright. Bred by Hanover Shoe Farms of Pennsylvania. Trained by Chris Davies, Kenny Murphy's in the driver's seat to get his third winner tonight for the driving triple. Time for the mile in 1:56.4. Lions Jenny Lee in the 9th down at trackside. It's the John Davies Memorial Cooler presentation. Wow. Take a peek at the orange in the winner's circle on this night here at Summerside. Lions Jenny Lee triples up Kenny Murphy in the John Davies Memorial in 1:56.4.
I took myself on mute. That was great. I remember watching that live, and I was, I think I was screaming at the TV a little bit when I was watching it. The last race, we'll get into my screaming watching that race. So we're pretty much coming close to an end, but we're gonna do something a little fun here. We're gonna bring on Chris's two sons. I said if you want to bring his daughter on too, he could, but she's a little shy. Chris is maybe sleeping. But I forgot your boys' names already.
Know about her.
So
she is
definitely. I'll go get the boys.
Yeah, go get them. Take your time. Yeah, it's all good. Yeah. All right, cool.
Michael's
we're gonna
namesake.
Oh, yes, me and Bowdy.
Oh. Yep. And Ben.
You all right? Getting stiff?
A little stiff.
Want to sit up for a minute?
I am, believe it or not.
No, I mean stand up.
Oh no, I get light when I do that.
If you want, Mike, I mean, you can take off if you want, but I don't want to keep you if you're not feeling well. If you want to,
I'm good. I just gotta hold my arm up here a little bit.
Yeah. So actually, while we're waiting, do you have anything you want to say to everybody, Mike? Because I know everyone was rooting for you there when you were sick.
Don't forget Corey and his girls.
I just want to thank everybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just goes back to like what we were saying about community. You know what I mean? This business, you know, I mean, to be honest with you, I received money from people I don't even know. You know, helping you get to it. I still get cards every day, little prize in them here and there, but I mean, just phone calls every day. Friends of mine that I haven't talked to in forever. You know what I mean? Like Jimmy Morrill Jr., he called the other day, and Jimmy Moran called me the other day, and you know, it's just feels good. You know, I just want to say thank you. And so, like, you know, I mean, people like Kelly Cormier, and how about Corey McPherson's daughters? You know what I mean? God bless them. You know? Those little girls set up a lemonade stand up there Friday night all home week and made like $600. God bless them. You know what I mean? And Corey's a great kid, and you know, I shouldn't say kid. He's not a kid no more, but you know, they did a hell of a job, him and his wife, raising them girls. I mean, yeah, that really touched me. You know what I mean? And it's funny too. Like, I was having a really bad day that day. I was in pain, and the wife, Mary Ellen, came into the room. She goes, "Here's something that might cheer you up." And I was like, "What?" And she showed me the picture with the sign the girls were holding. And I was like, "Are you kidding me?" And it was just like, wow, you know, it's good to be
in a community.
Know, yes. And
yeah.
Good to know people think about you. You know what I mean?
And a lot of, you know, I'll be quick to get the kids on. I'll just say this, and I was on Facebook a few days ago, and someone made a comment about harness racing and horses. They didn't know what they were talking about. They were just trying to start trouble. And I ripped that person one into another and said, "Don't ever talk about this business that you don't know about." The person was being really rude. The person was just trying to start trouble on Facebook. Right. And I made it pretty clear to them, don't talk about this business if you don't know it, because you have no idea what you're talking about. And dropped a couple F-bombs in there. I was a little mad, but that's great to hear. I'm glad you're getting better, Mike. I know it was a real bad situation. I'm glad you're getting better. It's great to see you on there too. We'll come back to you. I'm gonna bring the boys on here real quick because we got the next generations of Davies.
That's
and
right.
Here we are. We're gonna bring you guys up full screen too. So there we go.
Boys.
Hello.
Hi, guys. So who wants to introduce himself first?
I will.
Who are you?
Get cut out of me there, buddy.
Yeah,
speak up just a little.
And I'm 10 years old.
Go, Mike.
I'm Michael, and I'm
hey, buddy.
8 years old.
Hello, Michael.
Oh, so who's the karate kid of the group? Who's the karate kid? One of you guys knows karate, right?
Yeah,
they both do.
But one of you is going to run the whole house. Like Chris just kind of lives there. Am I right? Your dad just lives there. I know one of you keeps winning tournaments. Is it you, Mike?
Yeah.
You keep winning all the tournaments. Yeah, but you're a tough guy. So Chris, do you just does he tell you when to go to bed, Chris?
Yeah, it's kind of their terms.
Yeah. See, you just know you don't want to start anything.
We have
so
an
guys,
understanding.
let me ask you guys to start. You guys can answer this question. Who's your favorite horse right now? If you guys have a favorite horse, you can say in your dad's barn. Who was it?
Midnight McNeil.
I love that kid. That kid's awesome. That's my favorite horse too. How about you, Mike?
Midnight McNeil.
Oh, there you go. See, they're very smart kids. You're raising them well, Chris.
I try.
Who's your favorite driver right now?
Brett LeBron.
Yeah, he drives a lot for us now, doesn't he?
Mm-hmm.
How about you, Mike? Who's your favorite driver right now, buddy?
Kenny Murphy.
There you go.
You're black.
And I think let's see here. Okay, are you guys going to race horses? Are you guys going to race horses when you get older? Do you want to do that when you're older? Are you kind of still on the fence about it?
I might do it. I don't know if I will, but maybe. I might.
You'll be in UFC at that point, so you'll be making all the money for the whole family, right, Mike? I keep seeing you all the time, buddy, and all your dad's posts. You'll be in the UFC, like making all the big money. So let me think. Okay, well, what other questions do we have, Chris, for them? What do you think, buddy? Got anything in mind?
These two?
Yeah.
Michael wants to get into that mini horse. You know, did you see the minis?
Yeah.
Tyler wants to train, and he says Michael's going to drive.
Another boy. That'd be fun.
First, we got to get the mini. You know.
Yeah.
And the mini will chase Joanne around the barn. That'd be perfect. It's just like the goat did back in the day. That'd be lots of fun. That's such a cool thing that they do with the minis. I love that. That's great.
Yeah, it's good for the kids too. It's good.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. They have a lot of fun. So, all right, guys. Well, I'm kind of out of questions, but if Chris wants to say anything or anybody else want to ask the boys questions, I'm right here. So go ahead, ask the boys some questions if you want.
Boys, when's Dad going to bring you down here to the States to visit me and Mike?
Okay.
No, when?
Okay, you got to tell him to get his butt in gear and bring you down here.
Maybe next summer.
Spring break.
Spring break. And then maybe I'll try and get Mikey up there for old home week. Him and his crippled butt.
They'll bring their suits and warm up for you.
Yeah. Come on down. You make a fortune down here warming up.
Yeah, you can do that.
Shit, they make more money.
Maybe we'll bring Auntie JoJo with us.
You guys are getting
Joanne-
big.
I know.
Time to get home to see us.
They are getting big.
I have a picture of you guys too. I had one picture left. Let's forget all about that. One second. Here, over here. There's everybody right there. Yeah.
That was Michael's birthday, I think. He just got those driving glasses from Greenlock. He was so pumped.
Nice.
Don't let your dad steal them.
No.
All right, guys. Well, that was fun. I'm just gonna you guys hang out if you want. We're just gonna finish one more race. Your dad's actually racing in this race. This is the Walter Dale 2023.
Sit down, with Chrissy.
And I remember watching this race live. I think I was supposed to be there for this. Anyway. I love this race because your father's an incredible racer. I tell him all the time. I always tell him, you gotta start driving in Chris because he's a really good driver. But this is the Walter Dale 2023, and we'll come back and just kind of, chat a little bit, and we'll wrap up. So here comes Walter Dale from Woodstock, July 28th, 2023.
To pick them up on the backside. From the inside out in the Walter Dale, Emperor and Jeff Lewis. Stash It Away, Mark Haig. Pick a Genre with Mike Downey. Manterio and Chris Davies. And from the outside, it's the Real Princess and Sam Hodgen. 5 of them on the gate for the Walter Dale Memorial. Competitive field of 5 has reached the top of the stretch. Here they come. There they go, they're off and pacing the inside. Levers leave hard, Stash It Away and Emperor into the turn will go 1-2. Pick a Genre will come away third. Manterio will sit second last from fourth, and the Real Princess will have to do it from the back as she trails fifth as they round the opening turn. Stash It Away and Mark Haig turn into the backstretch with the lead. Emperor's right there with him from second. Slight gap back to Pick a Genre there from third. Manterio's fourth, and the Real Princess can see them all. She trails, but she's not out of it as they will near the opening quarter pole. Stash It Away and Mark Haig are the leader. They look to back it up. Emperor paces along second. Pick a Genre is right there from third. 28-4 at the opening quarter. Not a bad opener there. And it's Stash It Away rounding the turn with the lead. Emperor paces along second as they start to tighten up. Pick a Genre is right there from third. Manterio is fourth, and the Real Princess will look to get underway. She trails 5. Down the stretch they come. The opening half mile up next. And it is Stash It Away. Now we got some movement. Pick a Genre on the outside is now moving up second. Emperor's in at the inside from third. Manterio picks up live cover with the plugs pulled. He's second over fourth, and the Real Princess still has a lot of work to do. She trails from fifth. The opening half mile, 57 and 1 by the half. Heading around the 5/8 turn, and Stash It Away will look to open it up. Pick a Genre is outside second. Emperor third. Manterio stalled outside fourth, and the Real Princess still trails. Up the backstretch they go, and it's Stash It Away. Pick a Genre is grinding it out on the outside. He's right up to the leader's wheel. Now third is Manterio. Emperor is tiring fourth, and the Real Princess trails. They have 3/4 in the books. Stash It Away, 1:26 and 2 down at 3/4. Stash It Away. Pick a Genre is still grinding away on the outside. Manterio will look for room late as he will come to the top of the stretch, and it's Stash It Away. Manterio at the inside looking for room. Pick a Genre on the outside. They are now in deep stretch, and it is Stash It Away. Manterio coming up the inside. Pick a Genre on the outside. Deep in the stretch. Stash It Away. Manterio up the rail. Stash It Away hangs on. Manterio second. Pick a Genre third. Stash It Away 1:55 flat.
Oh, that was impressive. I'm gonna bring everybody back on to over here. Wait 1 second. No. Whoops. There we go. Everyone's there? Okay, perfect. Yeah, that was a great race, Chris. Good for you. That's why I give you all the credit, man. I tell you all the time, buddy. Like, you're a hell of a driver, man.
Whose horse was that? Manterio.
That was Jen Doyle's, Mike.
Who?
Jen Doyle.
Okay, yep.
Yeah. I had it all set up to take him, and Mark Haig was supposed to drive him, and I really wasn't driving a whole lot, like really at all at that point. And anyway, Mark didn't realize that Kevin McLean was going to put Stash It Away in it. So anyway, because I had asked Mark to drive Manterio because I was going to take him. I was going with Dale, and I had one in just to race or whatever to help fill the card for them, and then Mark ended up on. So we were kind of looking for a drive. Jen's like, "Why don't you just drive him?" And I was like, "Well, I don't really care, Jen." She's like, "No, you drive him. Just drive him." Anyway, I drove him. What a sweetheart, Jen. And you couldn't get a nicer person than Jen. Oh my God.
No, they put me down. Between them and Dwayne, Jen and she was with him. That's who got me started on the island.
Yeah, and she is the best. If I have any questions about anything, I message Jen, and she's literally back to me within 2 seconds with just a paragraph. You know what I mean? She's just such a nice. She's leading the way over here right now. She's got she's leading trainer in Charlottetown. She's got a pretty live group, so it's good for her.
Okay, seen that. Let me ask what we talk. Can you tell us what you were saying to Mark?
Just a minute.
What, Scott? Sorry.
Can you tell us what you're saying to Mark when you came into the finish, or was that something you can't say on the air? Because you were saying something to Mark.
I thought I had Mark for a second there. He ran right out. I thought, yeah.
Well, I was going to say,
I think you had to.
They should have placed him for taking what's his name out to the outside fence.
Yeah, really. Hey, it worked out great. Like I knew I was going to have room late, so I went back to the inside. It couldn't have worked out any better.
Right.
Who's that? Is that Eric?
I was gonna say, here's your little ones, Chris, in another 20 years.
That's how it works. Hey man,
that's my little fella.
Hi, Nubs.
What's going on? How are you?
Hi, Eric Edward.
Wave to Eric, boys. That's your cousin. Wave to Eric. Yeah. Wave down in Delaware.
He just went to Harrington to drive Eddie's dad's horse. Big Eddie, who is 80 and still driving, was driving the tractor, and he went to step down and he twisted his ankle and broke a little bone in it.
Oh.
So Eric's been driving for him. He finished second tonight with his old horse at Harrington. What, 12-1? 40-1.
Perfect. That'll make the injury a little easier. He won't have to get off the couch for a little while.
So he shipped a couple horses for me because my transmission went out in my truck, and I came home today. I got a race tomorrow at Harrington. We're still down in Chincoteague, and I told him when he left, I said, "Don't worry when you get home. I'm making your favorite meal. I'm making a ham and mashed potatoes." Well, we've been here for 2 hours. No, I got the ham cooked. I just got to do the potatoes.
Oh, man, the horse.
No, he didn't.
Be over.
Yeah.
So this is Scott Bernard. He's the guy that puts everything together for our home. And
Hi, how are you?
Look at how big Tyler and Mikey are.
Everybody else, yeah.
Look at how big they got.
Don't mess with them.
I told you, Mike. He runs the show. Mikey runs it. Chris just lives there. Mikey.
Me too.
Listen, no. Don't think so, Dad. I'll do what I want. Okay, that's no problem. Son. Don't hurt me.
I don't have to worry about these two. They're the best. Honest to God.
Oh,
they
yeah,
do the numbers. They do the numbers here on race nights in Summerside. They do the numbers.
I want to tell a good story about your kids, Chris. I want to tell a story about Chris's kids. When I did the Hall of Fame back in April, which still blows my mind that we actually got that done, and we did it at the Grove Lounge.
Cool.
And I remember
that was amazing. I wanted to come home so bad.
Well, I called the bar that we were doing it at, and me and Chris had talked and said, "Can the boys come?" I said, "Yeah, no problem. I assume it is." So I called the bar and I said, "Listen, one of the guys, as far as being inducted, can you bring his kids?" "Yeah, no problem. Just make sure they leave before everyone gets too drunk." And I'm not just saying this. I've said to everyone that will listen, his kids are the best kids in the world. Like, you wouldn't even know. Like, they were just so sweet. And I mean, for them to be sitting there for 2.5 hours, probably was something they didn't care about in the world. They're probably like, whatever. Just the sweetest kids, and your daughter's adorable. Like, she's a sweetheart.
She's the wild one of the group, really.
Yeah.
She is. No, she's got a mind of her own. But they're
just like their father and aunt, though. They're used to sitting around them places for 2.5 hours.
Yeah. Oh, I remember. She was so shy when I got her to come up, your daughter to come up and pick. I think I got the boys to pick too. We had the winners for the door prizes, which is. I remember. Oh God, Dale Pierce won an outdoor fire pit. Dale Pierce was in an apartment. I remember you brought it up. I'm going to tell you, buddy. Like, you can't let this thing in your apartment. But no, I just wanted to mention that they're definitely great kids. You raised them well, Chris. Good for you, buddy.
Thanks, buddy.
It helps when we were all raised by the best.
Yeah, that's right.
And so it's been great, guys. We hit just with 2 hours. I want to thank everybody. If everyone wants to add anything before we leave, feel free. I mean, I don't want to, like, if everyone wants to add anything at all, go ahead. And before
We've
we leave,
all
go ahead.
shared memories and whatnot, but we're all brought together because of him, and I am so blessed that he was my uncle. Because there's not one person that you'll meet that does not have a Big John story or a memory of him. He was just such an amazing uncle, part-time dad to me, mentor. What an amazing horseman. Like, he would bring horses into the barn with legs that Jesus couldn't fix, but somehow, some way he'd get them to the winner's circle. He was amazing at what he did, and I'm so blessed.
All them sugar cubes.
Yeah, all them sugar cubes. Yeah. I'm so blessed to have him in my life, and and then to bring in Christopher and Joanne and now Mikey and the kids and Tyler, and it's all about him, and thank God that we were chosen to be part of his family.
That's awesome. That's said very well.
Yep.
Chris, Joanne, Mike, anybody want to add anything else?
Like, I always tell people, like, I got my start with Uncle. You know what I mean? Me and Dad at the barn. Well, Dad always had so many people, and that you more or less felt in the way over there. So I was always in Uncle John's barn. I mean, I always helped Uncle John on race days. I never helped my dad. I was always at Uncle John's barn. And that's where I learned everything. I learned how to put on bandage, learned how to clean stalls. I learned everything there. You know what I mean?
And you learned hands-on as he sat there on the chair backwards. Nope, take it off. Try again.
And he'd, he was great with young people. I mean, anybody that's in the Maritimes that grew up around the track in St. John spent time in Uncle John's barn. You know what I mean? They put in their time there, whether it was because they wanted to or because their father or whatever sent their asses over there or whatever. But everybody ended up there at one point or another. And I think he always made the horse first, which a lot of people still don't do. And, it's not rocket science. You know what I mean? You look after the horses, you look after their problems, and you treat them with a little respect. And 9 times out of 10, you get the same back. And he always did that. And he was always very personable with his horses. No matter what horses came into his barn, he always made it a point, like, he knew all their little traits and all their little tricks and could teach them all things. Like, I can remember to this day, that little horse we were talking about before, Vital Hanover. We'd pull up in front of the barn, and before he'd eat, because he'd come up and pick me up, and I'd always go with him down there at night and top off waters. And back then, to be honest with you, everybody used to jug their own. Everybody be down there in the barns jugging horses and watering up. And he'd always, he always made it a point, like, every horse, he goes, oh, if you were in there and you say, well, this horse doing, yeah, he always does that. And he was right. They always did do that. But Vital Hanover, he always taught him about peppermints. Peppermints and sugar cubes were huge things in Uncle John's barn. But I can remember to this day pulling up outside the barn, and he'd holler, Vital, want a peppermint? And that little horse would nicker back within 2 seconds. Every time he said that horse's name and peppermint, that little horse would come out over the friggin' stall door and start nickering and looking right down at the office. And as soon as he'd walk out, he'd stop because he knew where he was going. He'd go right down, give that little horse a couple peppermints, and then he'd go down through the barn, and they all knew him, and he was, he run a barn the way it should be run. Everybody said, oh, geez, guys, you got to do all that. But you know what? You stop and look at it. Everything he had you doing is the right way to do it, and the stuff that should have been being done. And, made me a better person for it, a better horseman for it.
Most definitely.
Yeah, he was the best.
Yeah, for sure.
And I love going hearing all the stories. Anywhere when I say, they'll be like, "Who's your dad?" I'm like, "Big John. You know him? Do I know him?"
There wasn't anybody that never did know him, and if they didn't know him, they don't know nothing about harness racing in the Maritimes.
And they would always tell me too, "Your father's somebody I would never take a horse off of because you could never."
Nope.
He always used to tell me when I was like just starting or whatever. He's like, "Now I'm going to tell you right now." He said, "Just do the basics." He said, "Just keep up, like feed good hay. That's number one." And he's like, keep them hydrated and keep them happy. And he's like, you'll do great in this business. That's what he said. He said, anything more than that, you don't need to do.
You only get out what you put in.
Yeah, and to this day, I still remember, I'd be standing out in the front, or I'd be up front in the barn putting the horses away, and he'd be sitting. He couldn't get the truck any closer to the front door. He'd be sitting in the truck, barking the orders at me. You know what I mean? And we had fights. Oh my God! But to this day, I wish he was here. Something fierce. But when we left the barn, we fight and go on because we how Dad was, right? So, anyways, but when we left, we were always best friends. Best friends.
Yeah.
That's great. Right on, guys. Well, I think got over everything. I could talk we could talk for 3 more hours, but people
we could
probably won't watch us for 5 hours. So
I'll just give you a jingle later.
I appreciate everybody that came on. Mike, I know you've been through a lot. I really appreciate taking time out and coming on to talk to everybody and letting everybody know, we just talked about everything everybody did for you. So I appreciate that.
I
Janet,
would like to add, Scott, if I could.
Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
Wednesday, I'll know for sure, but anybody from home, anybody from anywhere that would like to come, we're organizing a Mike Day at the track for Cumberland Fair. It's not official yet, but as of yesterday, they have one more meeting Wednesday. We're going to have a day at the Cumberland Fair, September 28th, which is the last Saturday of the fair. They're going to do a 50-50. We're going to have a cooler, which we're praying Michael's going to be able to come and present. Chucky Symes and Yoni's Harness is donated. Full set of harness. We're going to do the drawing at that fair that day, hoping Michael's going to be able to draw it. And Mike Hitchcock from Maine has generously donated a brand new set of the LZR5 carbon fiber race bike wheels. So anybody wants to come for a weekend, pack your bags. Let's go. We're going to have a Mikey Day.
Sounds good to me.
Bid them up. Bid them up.
If you want to post it on the
in the opposite corners, Eric will be way at the back.
I don't know if I'm going to get him there. He goes to Shenandoah on me.
I'll have to miss it.
If you want to post it on the page and when it does happen, when it's official,
yeah, I'm just waiting until Wednesday. They have one more meeting to make everything official. But Mikey Cushion told me yesterday he's pretty positive everything's a go, and he's hoping it's going to be big. That's Michael's home track where he's stabled at, and everybody in Maine, everybody everywhere loves him. I love you, Mikey.
Yeah.
Not everybody.
And then we have Mrs. Michael.
So what we'll do is Jane, definitely you can go ahead and I'll thank everybody. Thank Chris and the boys for coming on. I know you're busy. I know guys. Joanne loves.
Love you too, buddy.
Joanne loves her Mondays. Well, it's Monday evening, so I guess it's.
I'm so glad Eric got to pop in and join.
Eric's here.
The nub stand in the silhouette behind Janny.
I know he's all dark. He's 6'2". He's too tall.
I was gonna say he's kind of dark. He's like
I got you guys all bunched up in a little cube too. So, but it was great catching up with everybody, getting memories of your father and uncle, as regardless who, either way. And I appreciate it. So, guys, thanks a lot for coming on.
Thank you, Scott.
And we'll
thanks, Scott.
Well, I'll be talking to everybody soon.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
Joanne.
You guys.
Love you all.
Michael.
Bye, guys.
We'll see you all later, guys.
They love
Thank you, Scott.
Love you.
You're welcome, Mike. Thanks, guys.
All
Take
right,
care.
Bye, guys. See you.
All right. So that was History VPR podcast with the Davies family. It was a lot of fun. I like the fact that we got to bring Mike on. It was great. Mike seems obviously he's a cousin to Chris and Joanne, and going to see that Mike's doing better. And great, lots of fun there. I mean, so John Davies is a big part of EPR for a lot of years, dating back to the 60s. Unfortunately, didn't have a whole, we didn't really have anything from the 70s, but either way, it was a really good time. Before I go, I want to thank a few people that made this possible, because it's definitely not just me that makes this possible. A lot of people help out. I want to thank Jerry McCabe that helps out. I also want to thank Mike Ellsworth, who provided, well, his site provided the Walter Dale. He doesn't know that I took it, but Mike doesn't mind. Russell Henderson, who any podcast I do, I go to Russell and basically get my fact checks done with him to make sure I know what I'm talking about. I also want to thank Red Shores, Lee Drake, great guy. Lee's really welcome to these podcasts. I make sure before I take a video to ask them, which I don't really have to, but they don't mind if I do it. And also Horse Race New Brunswick, because they provide the Walter Dale. So I also thank them for letting me use that. So until next time, thank you very much for watching the History EPR podcast, and we'll see you again, hopefully in less than a year. Hopefully we'll have another one on a little quicker this time between podcasts. So again, thanks for watching and take care.
Just watch it live at Exhibition Park. Come on and live at Exhibition Park. The real life fun of harness racing.